So I put this up here because the whole idea of 1904 Labs is why. Why are we, and this is our why. Three things. One, we want to be a transformative place in your own journey, in your career. You've heard me say it before. I want you to stay as long as you want to stay here. Obviously, we want you to have a plan for your career, and we want to help you meet that. Coming out of the pandemic, been in survival mode. We met here, obviously, in April. I think we're fully out of the pandemic. I'm going to knock on Formica that it doesn't come back and bite us again. Who knows? But that means we're back into the company we were before the pandemic started. If those of you that were with us in late 19, early 20, we were a growth company. And we're a growth company again. We were mentally growing in April. We're really growing now. And I want each of you to hold us accountable to this first why. If we're not doing this, why? Let us know. If we're not living up to the desire to be a transformed place in your career, don't just sit around and say, well, that's not true. Tell us what it would take to be true for you, because it's probably a little different for each of you. And we're serious about this first why. The second one is be a company that clients come to choose their thorny problems. And why is that? Well, one, those problems are interesting. Those aren't your run-of-the-mill problems, so they're fun to work on. But they're also key to having demand and pricing power and those kind of things. To develop a brand with our clients that they come to us for the tough problems, not the easy ones. There's basically a sustainability, a continuous growth option in that as well. And you each play a role in that by being a team member and a team that the clients say, I want to work with that team because that team is uniquely different. And we do have more than one example recently where clients are saying, I can see the difference. And so that's the second piece of our why. And then the third piece, which is make a difference in the lives of those people in the communities we operate. Just making money, just bettering ourselves, that's not good enough. We want to be a company that's committed to helping the communities that we operate in. And we operate primarily now in St. Louis, but we have some of you in other communities. So if you're in those communities and you're saying, hey, we can do something here, I want to hear about it. Because this is something that's beyond what's good for us and what's good for our clients. There's a ton of people in St. Louis that are not fully participating in prosperity for various and sundry ways. And Julie's talked about it, she'll talk more about it, but we've chosen to focus on kids, on the unhoused or the homeless, depending on how you want to phrase that, and those that are adults that have gone the wrong way and are looking for meaningful options to participate in prosperity in a way. And so you see our outreach to the community kind of framed in those three groups of people. And we're deadly serious about it. And if you have somebody that you want us to consider doing, several of you have raised your hand and we've gotten involved. There's a limit at the size we are, but as we get bigger, and that's another reason to grow, is to have more resources to give back. I'll come back to this at the end, but I want you to be thinking about this, and I mean it. I want you to hold us accountable to this. We won't always be perfect. We make mistakes. We're not always pitch perfect in what we're doing, but we are intentional and we are committed to these three whys. Transformative stop for each of you in your career. Hopefully it's a long stop, but however long that stop is. A client see us to solve their thorny challenges and making a difference in the lives of the people in the communities we operate. We're serious about it, and we can do it together. Okay, so let's talk about how we're going to spend the time today. And like always, it's a busy agenda. So as Julie's kind of said, and I still have 3 minutes, we're going to do a group photo first, get that out of the way. And then we're going to celebrate Tickle Pink. So Jake will come up and we'll do the drawing. Some updates, Kelly and Serena will talk about the APL conversation. Part of the transformative journey is to make sure we're staying connected with each of you. The conversations you have every 2 weeks with your AEL and the conversations you have on a less frequent basis around your career with your practice leader, assistant practice lead, who's ever providing that. They're going to talk to you about that. A team of people have been working on improving our intentionality and our focus in that area. And then Julie and I will talk about, we're still working on the survey results. We've made some progress. We want to give you an update on that. Then a couple team updates. So Aslan and Pond will come up and tell us what's going on there. And then obviously practice updates. Steve and Serena for the newly combined organization of the digital experience design practice and the delivery practice. Kelly, modern software engineering, and then Matt Squared, Fish, who took over the combined decision science and data engineering practice, went on vacation. So he said to his capability leads, you handle it. And so I guess because they're mathematic, they said Matt Squared. I used to have Matt and Matt, but anyway. Then we'll have lunch. We have an hour lunch. One thing I would say, notice there's no breaks between now and noon. If you need a break, take a break. It's just a rolling meeting. If you need to get out of here, either take a call or go to the bathroom, whatever, just slide out, slide back in. But we will take a concentrated hour break to have more fellowship and lunch from 12 to 1. And then the last team update, Team Moro, from 1 to 1:10, and then a slew of operations updates from the various operations teams. And then I'll give you a kind of a snapshot of where we are to date against the plan that I talked about at the beginning of the year. And then I got some final thoughts. I'm going to come back to some of the things I just talked about, and then we'll have our normal Q&A. And we'll wrap up, and Julie will talk about what we're going to do to have some fun at the end of the day. So I'm really excited that we're back together. I think we've reached a new rhythm in terms of the mix between innovation first, work where it makes sense and when it makes sense. And sometimes it makes sense to be together, certainly on something like this. And so let's make this a productive day. All right, Jake, hey, glad you can make it. Sorry we didn't want to get in the way.
Thank you. Sorry about that, bio break, had to occur. So what the heck is Tickled Pink? If you haven't, show of hands, who's new? Do we have new people? Julie's going to tell us we have a lot of new people. So everybody else has heard this story. So just kind of lean in a little bit and Uncle Jake will tell you a little story. What seems to be a long time ago now, about 6 years ago, a little over, we had our very first check-in for our very first set of teams, Bluebird and Atlantic. And our stakeholder was a guy named Mike. Mike's 6 foot something, kind of gruff, burly. And when we asked him how we were doing, asked for some feedback, he said, to tell you guys the truth, I'm tickled pink. Which is an odd thing for him to say, because I'm used to like a lot of growling and stuff like that, and it kind of stuck. We came back and we told the team how they were doing, and we told them that we were all just tickled pink with them, and that became a phrase for 1904 Labs, and it led to us handing out feathers, and which leads us to how do you nominate somebody? You can go into small improvements. There's an icon for feathers. If somebody's done something that you deem extraordinary, something that's kind of above and beyond the normal day-to-day activities, we want to recognize them. And this is our form of doing so. Go into small improvements, click on feather, nominate, put the person's name in there or a group of people to explain why. And then as that happens, there are prizes. At today's all hands meeting, we're gonna have a drawing in just a few seconds. And one person who's been nominated between the last time we all got together and now will win a $150 gift card. And then at the end of the year, the person with the most Tickled Pink nominations, not only do they get a gift card, we write a blog post about them, and they receive a keepsake Tickled Pink trophy. So without further ado...
Hey, can you tell the story behind the feather picker, though, why we had to do that?
I can tell the story behind the feather picker and why we had to do that. Let me think for a second.
Do you remember why?
Serena's looking guilty. One time, it was right before the pandemic. I think it was maybe the all hands before the pandemic, or maybe 2. Serena volunteered. The way I remember it is we had somebody else, and she kind of knocked that person over so she could put her hand in the physical fishbowl and pull out the winner for the $150 gift card. And lo and behold, she won. So there was some talk about validating the results of the drawing and how we could do this going further. So Scapes, so if he wins today, Scapes was kind enough to create a Tickled Pink feather picker for us.
There's a contest.
I'm sorry?
Who's the contest?
Who's the contest?
Yeah. That's right, we had more than one.
You're right.
Hackathon for it.
All right, listen, I don't remember all this stuff. This is not a part of my planned speech.
Scapes won the hackathon.
Scapes won a hackathon, and the winning trophy was we get to do this every all hands.
Yeah.
And every all hands about 2 weeks before, I get to text him and say, hey, it's all hands time. Create a new link. And he loves doing so. I'm sure he does. I don't know. Is he here? No. All right. Oh, sorry. All right. So without further ado, are there any more questions? Anybody? Okay. Without further ado, we're going to start the feather picker. Maybe. Okay. Here we go. Get ready. 3, 2. Feel free to dance along. This is kind of how I dance. So she hosted a scavenger hunt. Noah, who had hosted a couple scavenger hunts, wanted to acknowledge her for doing so. So thank you, Laura. I think this is maybe from the last All Hands. Congratulations, Laura.
Thanks, Jake, and Serena, thanks for being a good sport. That's like you're just never gonna live that down.
I'll put you on. Don't worry.
Are we on the timer?
Yep, 10 minutes.
Okay, well, I can talk. Okay, so we've got a lot of new people, and we want to make sure that we're covering down on this. And then there's been some confusion about what do I meet with my AEL for? What do I meet with my practice leader, my APL for? What should these conversations look like? I feel like there's some overlap. Oh, better?
Yeah.
Better. Okay. I thought maybe I'd just be loud enough. Okay. So we went through and workshopped it with people in the labs and said, okay, well, what do you want these conversations to look like? What's going to be the most valuable thing for you? And this is just kind of an overview of what the focus areas are for each of these individuals in your career here at 1904 Labs. So for the Agile Engineering Lead, they're the serving leader for the team, can change from project to project. They're focused on individual and team performance. Your practice director, assistant delivery lead, or assistant practice lead is part of your practice tribe, right, where your career is housed. They are your career serving leader, so they're also probably a serving leader for your practice. They're hopefully consistent through projects, and then they're focused on your long-term career goals and helping you achieve those.
And one thing I want to point out, so I think we created these slides before we really solidified the ADL, and I'll get into more of that when I talk about the delivery practice, but that's an assistant delivery lead. That person is not really the career serving leader. They're more like what I like to think of the AEL for an AEL, so we'll get into that later. But for those of you that are ADLs, don't get confused with how that's set up here. So like Kelly said, you probably have most of you probably have two one-on-one conversations today. One is with your AEL, and that's if you're on a project. And then the other one is with your career serving leader, and that's what we're going to call the Apple PD, that whole, all of those people, just to make it easier for
So many
presentation.
acronyms.
And it's like, yeah, so many acronyms. So like Kelly said, we did get a group of volunteers together. We announced it the last All Hands, but we did get a group of volunteers together to help be part of this one-on-one conversation design group. So I just wanted to really say thank you, and we appreciate all the feedback and constructive discussion that we had with Carmen, Jim, John Royal, Kanika, Nick Jones, Ryan, and Escape. So thank you, thank you. This presentation is your presentation. Oh, Ryan Kretz, sorry, we've got two Ryans, multiple names. Okay, so this is a table that kind of highlights the differences between the one-on-one conversations you're having with your AEL versus the career serving leader. And we bucket it into three big areas. There's value, timing, and discussion points. So for the AEL, they're focused on fulfillment. Is the person happy? Raising the bar, helping you get to your potential and beyond. There to solve blockers. Their timing is once a sprint. Usually 30 minutes is what I'm seeing. But the team member can obviously opt for more frequent meetings. We do want that baseline of a once a sprint though. We don't want to do less than that. Discussion points. So this is by no means a guideline to anything. These are just the types of conversations that you should be having with your AEL or with your team member once a sprint. How's life? Focusing on how things are going with the project, team, client. Are you happy? Are there blockers? What can I do to help you? So things like that. And then Kelly's going to talk about the column for the career serving leader.
So for your career serving leader, they're going to be focused, their value really is going to come from career growth, mentoring, helping support you in reaching your goals, giving you the resources that you need, potentially helping you with anything that the practice can help give you as well. Timing, we see it as a once a quarter longer meeting. We have 2 hours here. Again, this is not to be like hard and fast rules, but just a general guideline for everybody. So we see these as longer meetings, once a quarter to talk through your personal growth plan, your career goals. You don't have to discuss your personal growth plan with your career serving leader, although we do ask you to have a goal for your career. They're going to review any action items that you went, plan for the next quarter with you. And again, you can meet with them more often if you'd like, but we think once a quarter is good. Again, we're trying not to overwhelm anybody with meetings and check-ins and doing all of that. So, and I think we want to make sure that these meetings are really valuable and you're getting what you need out of them. Are you feeling satisfied? When's your next planned time off? Oh, that's for both of them. When's your next planned time off? And again, so I'm highlighting down here, I've kind of already said this, but the discussion points are not prescriptive questions, right? We're not trying to be robotic about it. We're just trying to give guidelines so that it's consistent across practices, it's consistent for you and your career, you know what to expect, and everybody's being treated the same way. The meeting's meant to be a conversation for both team members and leads, and both are responsible for making sure that the one-on-ones are being used effectively. If for some reason you feel like you're not getting value out of the one-on-ones that you're having with either your career serving leader or your AEL, please let them know. Like, that is as much a meeting for you as it is, and it is for them as well. So if you're not getting value out of it, please be the change that you want to see in those conversations. Say like, hey, I'd like to discuss this, or this. You know, this would be more valuable to me in these conversations. And you can be a driver for that and make sure you're getting the value that you want out of those meetings. Oh, more details. So for the career serving leader conversations, you should meet with your career serving leader within about the first month of joining. There was kind of some scheduling snafu, so this was a little bit late for some of the MSE ones, but in general, you should be meeting within the first month of joining the labs, and then once a quarter after that. They'll go through your personal growth plan. We have a link here, we'll share these out. We can put this out in general too. Your personal growth plan template is to help you define your goals, help you set some goals for yourself. Again, you don't have to do it, but it's a really nice template and way to help you set up some career goals for yourself. You don't have to share it with your career serving leader. It's not a requirement that you share it, but it is a requirement that you have a plan for yourself. It can help you understand how you want to grow. And then also, some of the conversations for the career serving leader can help you is through the growth and contribution retrospective support and guidance. So when your GCR is coming up, you say, hey, what should I talk about during this? Like, they can help you work through a lot of that stuff as well.
So if you think about it, you're having conversations with your AEL once a sprint. You're meeting with your career serving leader once a quarter. So there's definitely going to be a little bit of overlap, or there's going to be times where sometimes the AEL is like, hey, I think this is important for their Apple or their career serving leader to know about, or vice versa. So to help the company support the employee on all levels, there could be that important sharing that needs to happen. But what we wanted to specify here very, very clearly is that the employee, you will be consulted and asked before any of that information sharing happens. We want to make sure that you're comfortable, because there are things that you share privately with some people, and there's different relationships that you can have with some people. So, but if there is anything that needs to be shared, we will definitely make sure that the employee knows about it, is comfortable with it before that happens. Final points. So we're planning to roll out this new structure. For some of you, it might not be new, but now this new formalized structure starting October 1st, so right around the corner, fourth quarter. So if you're not seeing those regular AEL or career serving leader one-on-ones on your calendar, please, please, please speak up. And there's still some time, but if you have any questions, comments, feedback, please let Kelly or I know. Like we said, these are supposed to be valuable and important for you, not just the practice and project leads. I think that's it. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so for those of you that were here in January, you know about the employee survey that we did. It's our annual survey that we do. We used to do it in conjunction with winning like top workplace or best workplace with different publications. And we were getting good feedback, but we felt like it was a bit biased because we were wanting to win the award. So we started doing our own produced employee survey, and we gave a little bit of an update in April, and I wanted to go ahead and give another update of where we're at. So again, for those of you that are new, this employee survey comes out in January. This year we had 98% completion rate. And again, this year we were really thoughtful about the questions and the way to provide feedback, and it allowed you to not only just respond with a ranking of how you felt about that particular topic, but also give actual feedback into it, which was very helpful. And then we have prioritized, and when I say we, I mean the leadership group met in April, and we prioritized and came up with these kind of 12 areas and ideas that we took away from the survey as being really important to each of you, and they became our focus area. I know that's a lot to consume there. What we've been doing over the last few months is focusing on area number 1, which is we need to improve the type of work we sell and ensure it aligns with the needs and wants of our people. That's a big one, and that's why it's number 1. So that has, from it, created 3 working groups. The first working group is Kit and Serena, and 1904 Labs doesn't have effective client, buyer, or project selection criteria is their area of focus. And so since we last met in April, they have established a project success criteria. They have used this project success criteria during pre-engagement to evaluate projects. And then the criteria, this project success criteria includes things like, do they have a dedicated PO? Are they agile? Do they understand the importance of DX? And what's their tech stack? That helps us align better with the client when determining if we are getting the right kind of work. The second group was Jake, Claire, and Sean, and they were addressing business development isn't generating enough volume to allow us to choose better projects. So you'll see that that's blank. It's not because they haven't done anything. It's because Jake is going to do a deeper dive later today when it's biz development's updates. So you'll get more information on that a little bit later. And then the third working group was Alexandra and Fish, and they were addressing why are we not clearly differentiated compared to our competitors on our website, social media, etc. So since the last all hands, they have updated the website. Which is amazing, round of applause. and the slide deck that we use, and then they're building out solutions and exploring external expertise. So just wanted to spend a couple minutes on this morning because it is really important. When we ask for your feedback, we want you to know that we are looking at it and we are trying to take action on it. So we're continuing to work through the survey results. This number one, as you can tell, it was important, and it's taken a lot of time and resources to work through it, and then we'll start working on some of the other ones. And actually some of the other ones are work in progress as well. We just don't have as much kind of movement on that to share right now. So I've got a link to a Jira board that I'll send out later. John created that for us, and you'll be able to see all of these items on the Jira board and kind of see what stage they're in. And then any feedback you have as far as prioritizing any of those 12 ideas that we're working on, if you want to be part of that, help us organize it. If you think we're missing something, we would love to have feedback and input. We offered that in April. We're offering it again. You don't have to wait for stand up to raise or innovation time. What are we at? All hands. You don't have to wait for an all hands to raise your hand and be interested in participating. You can reach out to any of us anytime, because this is we're all part of the why. We're all part of the growth and the success of 1904, and that's due to each of you in this room. So thanks again for your feedback. It's coming up again in January. So thank you.
Okay, this is really some of my most favorite times in the all hands meeting, where we get to have our teams talk about the impact they're having with our clients. And so first up is Team Aslan.
You're on the clock.
Hello everyone, we are Team Aslan. Today we're going to talk about our team, talk about our client's problem statement, give you a little bit of the history, and then talk about our efforts in digital experience and decision science, as well as conclude with some mock-ups of future product capability. So our client is Kingdom Capital. They are a venture capital firm here in St. Louis. We work with one of their portfolio companies, Perchaya. My name is Niarchus. I'm the Agile Engineer Lead on this project, along with Matt Pitlick, the Decision Science Lead, Shane, the Digital Product Designer, Max, the Digital Experience Designer, and Justin, who is on a family vacation, who's the Modern Software Engineer. And with us are 3 other companies: Worldwide Technology, ACM Analytics, and Object Computing Incorporated. Now, I can look at all your faces and I know what you're thinking. What are all these people trying to do? Well, let's hear it from the CEO of Perchaya. We enable experts to ask questions they didn't anticipate. They didn't anticipate. That is the key differentiator between what Perchaya is trying to do and other business intelligence applications out there. They are trying to find those non-obvious connections in large sets of data. So how did we get here? Kingdom Capital looked at technology at WashU, specifically the Genome Technology Access Center, and created Perchaya to commercialize that technology. That led to a product that was focused on scientific and pharmaceutical discovery that's being used today at a handful of academic institutions. They then got the opportunity with Missouri Medicaid, I don't know how, to help them investigate fraudulent activities. And they asked themselves the question, can we leverage the technology built for life science in this different vertical? And that's where we come in, as well as all those other people. The question is, can we build a product that will help an investigator find fraudulent, wasteful, abusive activities done by providers in non-obvious ways just by looking at the claims data? And I will say, to this point, we've only been using test data. And as of this week, we got Missouri claims data in our system, so we're really about to start having some fun. And Max is going to tell you all about that.
So as Niarchus had kind of pointed out, Up to this date, we have done some research in this area, but this is our first opportunity.
Can you put the mic closer to your mouth?
Thank you. This is our first opportunity to really connect with end users and observe them throughout the process. So what we have here is two teams running similar processes of analysis, but with two different objectives. For what that means for us as the experienced team, we're going to be trailing them, observing them throughout this process, and really learning. Our key goals are really going to be uncovering what their workflow, what their process actually is, what the best practices are through that process. But ultimately, what we really are caring about is getting to the informed product development recommendations and really opportunities for improvement for our product, for Perchaya, as well as how the analytics team, ACM, can really take the product and incorporate it better into their workflows. We've identified 3 phases that we're going to be going through, and that's kind of where we're at today. At phase 1, there's user acceptance testing, where at a high level, basically, we've got this Missouri claims data. Is it what they actually need? Has it been de-identified for patient information? It gets into phase 2, where we do data ingestion, where it's basically saying, how do we format or prep the data for the analytics process? And that's what we'll be going to next. And then finally, that gets to the data analysis process, where there are these 2 teams, data science, which is made up of part of 1904 individuals meeting with our client, are part of that team as well, and they're kind of doing this analysis to really develop the product from an R&D effort perspective of developing the product, and then we are following ACM throughout the analysis process and really learning from them what that actual workflow is. So coming out of that, we're really looking for those opportunities for improvement, and that's where we're at today.
All right. So I'm going to try to tell you at a high level a little bit about what our technical process is here. So our main data set is Medicaid medical claims. These are procedure and medication claims. And so our main attributes are procedures, medications, and diagnosis centered around patients and providers. So the first thing we do is we filter these claims. So if you know anything about claims, you know there's a lot of back and forth between your provider or your pharmacy and your payer, meaning your insurance company or Medicaid. There's a lot of back and forth, and each one of those back and forths can create a record or a claim, and depending on what system's being used. And so we need to filter a lot of those out so that we don't double count the actual medical event. So if there's a prescription that's prescribed, we only want to count that once, right? So first we filter. The next thing we do is we group these claims together so that all of the claims about a specific medical event are all grouped together in what we call a patient episode. There's a lot of different ways that you can group these claims together depending on what your end goal is. So our end goal is provider analysis, but if you're doing something like patient analysis or population analysis, or if you're an insurance company and all you really care about is the total cost of care, you might group these claims together in a different way. So we have a specific way that we group these claims together, and much like a lot of stuff at Perchaya, this process was inherited from early on in the process. So what we're doing right now is actually reevaluating the way that we group these claims together to see if this is the right way to do it or if there's a better way to do it. And we've been doing research about all the different ways that other people in the industry group these claims together. All right, so once we group these together and we have these patient episodes out there, and a patient episode might be like, say you break your knee and you go to the doctor and you get x-rays, you get medication, all the claims that are generated around breaking your knee are all grouped together in one patient episode. So now we have all these patient episodes, and now let's say we want to go and we want to investigate a provider. So we go and we gather up all of the patient episodes for this one that are related to this one provider. An episode is related to a provider if that provider prescribed a medication or ordered a procedure in that episode. So we grab all those episodes for that provider and we combine them into what we call a normalized aggregate memory, and that represents, we think this represents, what we call a provider practice pattern. So we can do that for all of these different providers, and now finally we can apply a similarity metric and determine which providers are similar to each other and which providers are dissimilar to each other. And that's sort of the end of our process here, of processing the data. Now, what do we do with this? Now, our hope is that we can identify fraud. How do we do that? Well, here's one example of how we try to do this. Let's say our provider over here has a declared specialty of psychiatry. We go through this entire process and we find that the other providers that are most similar to this provider all have a declared specialty of neurology. That seems a little weird, right? Doesn't mean there's fraud going on, but it's a red flag. And that's what we're trying to do. Our process, our product is not supposed to say, yes, 100% there is fraud here. It's supposed to point to areas where the analysts can then go off and dig deeper and do their work. And they are the ones that determine whether there's actually fraud there or not. So a couple of areas that we are doing deeper research on to improve this process. Data ingestion, like they said, we are getting new data, and so we have to do a new data ingestion pipeline. We have to clean the data, do exploratory data analysis to understand what kind of data we have. I got to work on an inference engine to try to fill in missing fields, in particular diagnosis. And then, like I said, we're looking to see if we can do different types of grouping, and then also looking at a different similarity metrics.
Cool, I just wanted to show you guys some initial mock-ups we did to show the flow of what we do. So what I wanted to do was show you guys the similarity query, which is like the bread and butter of this, like Matt was talking about, is getting that claims data and figuring out who's similar, dissimilar inside of providers, and that hopefully can help lead us to fraud and wasted abuse. So if you click the next slide. So the first thing I'd want to do is, as a user, I'd go in and I want to define that group. So a really common thing to do is to go by specialty. So if you click one more time. So say I go in, I can open, I can see all the specialties available. You want to click one more time. And say I want to go, oh, well, all right, say I want to look at heart failure, cardiologist, and cardiologist. So I could do that really quickly, and then this basically gives, if you go to the next slide, this shows me all the outliers in there. This is basically saying people who claim to be cardiologists, but they don't look like it on paper, right? So you can see my high risk one, click one more time. So the next question, because they don't look like a cardiologist, what do they look like? And so we have this quick spectrum here, so investigators can look in and say like, oh, well, this person actually, their practice pattern looks more like someone in pain medicine. And that might be someone I'm interested in talking to. So the next layer of this is I want to see the initial people that are inside of that. So what this graph represents is the individual providers and how close or similar they are to our target provider. If you click one more time. Then I can roll over inside of this. I can see those individual providers, and this gives me a clue as to what and how and why they're similar, dissimilar. And this is a really quick, fast way they can go in and dive in and hopefully find particular people of interest.
We're good, we're done. Thank you, we're Team Oslo.
That's pretty interesting. And I think that would be a deeper dive on Lunch and Learn would really be kind of interesting on that. Okay, let's see if I can do this. Next up will be Team Pond.
Hello, check. There we go.
You're on the clock.
I'm on the clock. Hi, my name is Matt Harris, and I'm the representative for Pond today. This Pond is we're going to go over the team challenge, solution, process, and most of this is probably obsolete from what we learned yesterday. So I'm gonna whip through a lot of this stuff, but the most exciting stuff is, well, I'll talk about at the end about how we're transitioning into more of an advanced engineering team. But the Pond team is one of the oldest teams in the labs. We've been around for more than 5 years, is that right? So we've got a lot of members. It's a heavy data engineering team, and we've got Kanika, Tim, myself, Nathan, Steve, Scapes is not here, Julius, Josh, all you guys stand up and be recognized. As well as, we've got so many people here that are Pond Emeritus. We've stood on the shoulders of giants that helped the team become what it is today. And Michael, John, Serena, Jocelyn, Coach, Kit, and Pitlick have all been on Pond as well. So we appreciate all the work they've done as well. What we do for a MasterCard is we process every single credit card transaction in the world, except for a few countries that we're not allowed to, match those together and provide those for our fraud department to try and figure out what transactions are fraudulent or not. That's the simplest way. There's a lot more complexity around, but basically that's it. We process data at a massive scale and real-time match these transactions in Hadoop data cluster and maintain a very large data lake of this to help the data scientists and external reports to be able to give them the information that they need at scale. At the highest level, we ingest data from something called FlexTP, which is the credit card processing processor. It comes into our cluster. It's a Cloudera cluster in Kafka. We've got a Spark streaming application that interacts with Solar for our lookups, HBase for near real-time storage, and that goes into after it's matched. So we have authorizations and authentications coming in disparate transactions, and we need to match those together to have a complete view of what the whole transaction looks like. That is then fed into another Kafka instance that gets fed out to the data warehouse via NiFi, and also fed into a Hive data lake, which is accessible via Click, and also it's fed information about fraud from NiFi as well, and matched up, and also served free to Click. So this is kind of a high level what it is today. This has been grown over the last 5 years, and it's getting a little old. It's getting a little bit clunky, and we just went through a transition to upgrade Cloudera. But our process is basically dealing with a large amount of data, reading from a fire hose, dealing with the red tape that that MasterCard puts in our way, and trying to slash through that as quickly and as efficiently as possible. But our secret sauce is Spark Streaming, and Spark Streaming is amazing, being able to process the amount of data that we have to deal with. We process between 6,000 and 8,000 records per second, and that is probably on the order of 440 million records a day. And we've got the size of our Hive instance is probably around 5 petabytes, something like that. It's extremely large, and without being able to use Spark Streaming, it would be almost impossible to do. What we had learned from our inside of Spark Streaming is Spark SQL user-defined functions are good, but they're not great. So we actually don't use them. It's like 3 times faster to not use a Spark SQL user-defined function than it is to not use it. And we've also played a lot around with partitioning and partition the data in different ways as it comes in to make it a lot more efficient. This is more internal to those data nerds who like Spark stuff, but this is really things we learned in the past couple of years. But what we learned, what we're doing is we're transitioning the team. It is no longer going to be a feature team, or quote unquote feature team. We're going to be actually going back to the roots of Pond. Those of you who've been around for a while know that Pond was originally an advanced engineering team, and we're going to go back to that. So we're going to transition almost everything you saw on the other slides to other teams inside of MasterCard, and start from scratch and look for and do high-speed, basically rewrite what we've done so far and process in the cloud. So we're going to actually transition and get access to cloud infrastructure inside of MasterCard and start doing the authentication piece inside the cloud and play around with some new technologies. Like Nathan's going to help us out with the graph database prototype. And we've got a new transaction as well that we have to process. There's a new, it's a little complicated to explain, but it's called a new stand-in. So if you have to process your credit card transaction with a different bank, it will try and route that to the most cost-effective way. And so as part of that effort, we have to be able to ingest that information in and process it. And we're going to use that project to try out the new technologies around advanced engineering. So it's very exciting for us. We just talked about it yesterday with our project owner, and it's going to be a brand new year for Pond coming up. So we're all very excited, and hopefully, any questions?
Hey, great synergy there. Yeah, thank you. It is amazing how long your team has been a part of the labs, and all the alumni that are here at the labs doing other things. So it's excellent. Thank you for that. Do a little cleanup here. Okay, practice updates. First up, Suri and Steve. You're on the clock. All right. Hello. Oh, you're affordances. All right, digital experience and delivery. So what I want to do is reintroduce everybody as, oops, lost my transition, dang it. There we go. We have 28 new hires so far this year, so I wanted to show all the humans in the digital experience practice to everyone all over again. It's great to have everyone stand up in the practice if you would. Let everyone see. Tara, Max, Jasmine, Paul, Jeremy, Shane, Lisa, Darcy, Jacob, and myself. What's interesting is we've got some great teams of people, as you'll see their presentation coming up next. You saw Team Aslan and the great things they're doing. This is a client that has no really design capabilities, so the fact that we're bringing them a design studio of sorts is really awesome. Team Ringtones with Jeremy and Lisa, they are kicking it with a very difficult project. We're almost wrapping it up. It's getting there. What we're doing in the background is the banana phones, is what we call. We're supporting them with a lot of research and a lot of background stuff that might not be in the contract, but we really need to get that to get forward. So what I really want to show you with all this is, when I started over 5 years ago, sometimes I was a half a person on more than one project, or a quarter person. We've made a great transition over the years, and we have a power in pairs with our practice. So with more than one person, that means double the empathy, double the skills, double the deep-rooted knowledge in what the problems we're trying to solve, and that's what the digital experience practice is bringing. We're going to be looking towards the future with a lot more things such as strategy and how that might look when it comes to maybe some teams that don't have digital experience directly in it. So we're going to be looking at that. We started this morning in our team breakfast where kind of exploring as a team, what does that look like for us in the future paired with delivery.
Okay, and similarly, I want to reintroduce the delivery team and kind of add a little tidbit about what each person's been doing. This by no means is to say this is everything they're doing, but just a little bit of a highlight to speak to each. And if all of you remember, I'm sorry, delivery folks, I did make you stand up when I called out your name last time. I am going to do that again. So when you see your picture up here, your name, please just stand up and wave so everyone can see you in person, because we rarely get a chance to do this. So this first slide is the CDEs. For those of you that don't know, those are the client delivery executives. Those are our delivery members that actually sort of land at a client. So they're there responsible for overall delivery of the client as well as growth. And then ADLs is a new role that we established not too many weeks ago, and that's the assistant delivery lead. So you heard me talk about that a little bit earlier. They are serving leaders to some of our AELs. So let's get started with the CDEs. We have Bo, he's not here, he's busy getting married, not on his honeymoon, so we'll let him not be here. But Bo has hung up his AEL hat while balancing closing out Lighthouse on MasterCard and growing our presence at MasterCard. Eric. Eric has also hung up his AEL hat. And navigating Bear, successfully reaching strategic level talks with many people at Bear leadership. Julius, he's been stabilizing our relationship with a MasterCard PON client and helping pave a path for the team to more greenfield advanced engineering work, which they're really excited about. John Royal, he's been piloting the latest deterministic agile process. If you're curious about what that is, please reach out to John. He's been doing that at NGA and helping carve a path for its future use, while also ramping up our new team, River Run, at MasterCard. Niarchus, right there, you just heard from him. He's ensuring team health at Kingdom Capital, where it's a bit different, like you just heard, than our normal way of working, while also churning out valuable blogs. In case any of you haven't read them, I just read one about rubber ducking, which was very interesting. So reach out to him if you want to know more. AELs. So John Ross here from out of town, guiding the team through finishing our initial goals early and working through the uncertainty while defining goals for the next phase with Bouncer at Bear. Jay Garvey, he's not here, he's busy heads down working on some ring work, but he's a major force behind a major force, not the major force, but a major force. There's many major forces, but a major force behind the AI-ACS solution and work with Ring, balancing a big team, tight deadlines, and a new problem space. Jim, he's right behind me. The newest member of delivery. He was here at our last all hands, but he wasn't officially part of 1904 Labs. This is his first official all hands. Our newest member of delivery, working effectively with the team and client, and more recently towards ensuring a successful transition of Vesta at Bear by the end of this year. Glenn is here, there he is. So Glenn has stepped seamlessly into the AEL role while helping NGA build out a roadmap and helping the team deliver on a huge multi-year project. Ryan has been instrumental in the growth at EHI with doubling the team size and project duration. He also has had the most number of team onboardings while still being relatively new himself. So, and last but not least, we've got Mark. So Mark has been supporting our team, supporting the team, the 1904 Labs team, and getting the website over the finish line, and being a key problem solver across the labs for basically anything. He's also part of the background at Ring. So that's our group of AELs. Thank you, everyone. So, like some of you might have read in the org updates, I think like a week and a half ago, there's a new, and I like to think better, team that we formed. So digital experience coming together with delivery. Why did we do that? Well, we did that because we want to get back to, and I really mean get back to, building the right thing the right way. That's going back to discovery paired with delivery. So it made sense to put these two powerhouse teams together, and let's work our magic and get back to that. Show the values to the client and be able to sell it, Jake, and implement it.
And so this is our current organizational structure, which is fine. It reflects a lot of our last 4 or 5 years, but it doesn't really reflect what we do and our skills and our capabilities. So we're going to, starting with this morning's breakfast, we're going to look at how we might change this around a bit, hire in the right people, or bring the right people up to lead us into the next couple of years, especially with new solution offerings, not just our regular revenue business right now.
Okay. Last thing we just want to cover are some short-term goals. So one big thing that we're seeing is just team culture and bonding, which we did start with this morning. We had a speed dating round, and you're more interested in finding out what we learned, how that went. Feel free to ask Steve or I, or anyone on the team. But the goal is basically to strengthen relationships within and across both teams. We want to promote intra and inter-practice skill development. There's a lot of overlap, and we can learn from each other. And so that's definitely a key goal. Short term, yes, but long term as well. The other thing that I kind of touched upon was just going back to discovering first and delivering. So how are we going to do that? These teams are going to pair together with marketing and sales. We want to be able to help our potential clients understand the value. Derive the value out of the work that we've done, especially some of the key work that we're doing right now with Kingdom Client and MGA. It's really operating in closer to that model, and then helping potential clients understand that. Roles and responsibilities on the team. How we can pair together to build what I like to think of as a delivery team with AEL and DX on projects.
And then finally, we'll be going back to, after the Rain project wraps up, we'll be having a big retro on that and understanding how that we can help as a delivery practice, help that AIECS solution come fully formed as we go into those next deals for the rest of the year.
Thank you.
Kelly?
Is this updated live? Or? Yeah.
Well, you changed it last couple days ago. You didn't change it where you're sitting.
I did. Will it still work?
I don't know, we'll see.
Okay.
If you just updated, if you got a slideshow and just refresh, I assume to move the slides, right?
Just go. You're on the clock.
Oh, okay. Oh, no more talking. Okay. I'm here to represent Modern Software Engineering. So today I'd like to give you an overview, some updates, what's next, and then I want to talk about something that I think makes the employees in 1904 Labs really special. Oh, click. Does this work? First of all, this is our Modern Software Engineering mission and vision. We want to provide a space where software engineers can grow their careers and transform themselves through support, training, and collaboration so they're empowered to build innovative software solutions. Our vision is to inspire, innovate, and build. These are the areas of expertise that we deal in: cloud native development, modern web and mobile application development, DevOps and security automation. We're still working on the security. And then we also know a lot about geospatial. This is the Modern Software Engineering team. Can everybody in the Modern Software Engineering team please stand up? Thank you. Thank your local Modern Software Engineering. The leadership team. The assistant practice leads for Modern Software Engineering are our newest member to the Modern Software Engineering team, Eli. Welcome. Tora. Scapes, who unfortunately has COVID and is like giving me a test update every other hour because he's so sad that he's missing it. And then me. Okay. These are the clients that we serve. We actually had a team at Charter earlier this year that we've sunsetted, so they did a great job wrapping up that project, so this will fall off on our next all hands, and maybe there'll be a new one in its place. Let's hope, right? Jake? I want to welcome the newest members of Modern Software Engineering. Josiah Moore, who joined us in July. Can you please stand up? Andrew Hinderleader joined us in July. Can you please stand up? And Justin Gorinsky joined us in July. Please stand up. Okay, so now I want to talk about the people. So what's your favorite thing about working at 1904 Labs? I get this question asked to me over and 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 over again in interviews. Almost every single interview, somebody asks this question. What's your favorite thing about working at 1904 Labs? Inevitably, this is not usually just my answer. This is all the other interviewers' answer. They say, you know what I like best about the labs? It's the people. And so I was thinking, what is it that makes the people of 1904 Labs different? Like, what are some attributes that we have, or what are some things that we do that are different, that are maybe special, or that I think are special? And Kit talked about something that I think that a lot of 1904 Labbers have, which is grit. He talked about that in December, and grit, I think, is definitely something we have, and I also think we have something called resilience. So, the definition of resilience, according to the dictionary, is the capability of a strained body to recover its size and shape after deformation, caused especially by compressive stress, or an ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. So, you know, when the pandemic hit, there was a lot of stress, and there was a lot of sadness and a lot of anxiety around that, and it was hard, right? It was really hard. I think we all really felt it. So, I particularly felt it. This is actually a DALL-E-generated image, by the way, if anybody's interested. I know you'd appreciate that. All right. So this is an AI-generated image. Anyhow, just for fun. So in December of 2020, this was me crying at my desk. Literally, I was crying at my desk one day because I was so sad and overwhelmed and just feeling just terrible. And I reached out to Tora, and I was like, Tora, I'm sitting here, I'm crying at my desk. I am just feeling so bad about everything that's going on. And he said, Kelly, I get you. I totally understand. I feel the same way. And so we worked through it, and we were like, well, let's keep going. We're going to finish this project out, right? We were at the end of our project. We didn't know what was going to happen next. And there was a lot of turmoil, so we were like, what are we going to do? So this is me crying at my desk. This is me on Monday at the drone races. That is genuinely like a big huge smile. So, to me, this speaks to the resilience of the labs and of everybody in here. And this is my story, because I don't want to tell all of the people that I work with stories, but well, the one thing that helped me, if anybody's been on the phone with me or on a video call with me, in the background, they can see in my dining room at my desk, you could probably see this in the background. I wrote this. After that day, I talked to Tora and said, I'm feeling really terrible, crying at my desk. I decided that I was not going to let the pandemic define who I was going to be for the next however long it was going to happen. And I wasn't going to be sad, and I wasn't going to be sitting there crying at my desk, although, you know, some days you just want to cry at your desk. So I took on a mantra that helped me, which was, at the end of the pandemic, I'm going to be harder, better, faster, stronger, which is a song. That's a Daft Punk song. But it really was just about, like, I knew that I didn't want to have this define who I was. I didn't want to come out of this weaker than I was. I wanted to be better. I wanted to be stronger. And you know what? I was not the exception. I was one among my whole group of people that I saw go through sadness and anxiety, and pain, not being able to be together, not knowing what was going to happen next, and they talked to me about it, and they talked to their APLs about it, and they talked to their AELs about it, and they talked to their practice directors about it. And I think that this really speaks to our resilience, like that we're still sitting here today. And not only are we just still hitting here today, but we've grown by 47% from our lowest numbers in 2021. So we can track it down. As far as my team, we've learned countless new skills and languages. I've thrown so many people on new teams, and they're like, I don't know anything about this tech stack at all. And you know what? They've learned it. Not only have they learned it, they've learned it well enough to impress our clients. gained 6 professional certificates, AWS certificates, again, along with countless personal goals and dreams accomplished. And just since the last all hands, my team has gotten 55 feathers, given 5 lunch and learns, helped get the expansion and renewal for Bouncer that was just signed this week. Helped sell a brand new MasterCard team called River Run. And had a game jam. And the final thing, we launched a website. We launched a new website. So this has all happened since the last all hands. So again, I just want to call out the resilient members of the Modern Software Engineering team. Thank you for everything.
Hey, Kelly, were we in alphabetical order?
The OCD MSC team. And last but not least, the Data Engineering and Decision Science team. Matt Square.
They're square.
Hey, I believe in you.
You don't know how hard Pitlick tried to get Fish to do this in the plane as he's flying to vacation. There's no reason or record it or something, so we didn't have to do this. But here we go. Data engineering and data science. We're going to be talking about both those and the new data engineering and data science practice. Yay! Data engineering. So we've got 4 projects going on with data engineering. Aforementioned Pond, which you heard me talk about at length. The Yoshi and Morrow and River Run, the new River Run team. Our anniversaries, we've got Nick Rafferty, Kit Menke with Nick Rafferty 1 year, Kit Menke with 5 years, and Tim Smith with 5 years. So thank you so much for being part of data engineering. We got 5 new hires. We're growing like a weed. We got Wes, Paul, Chris, Sam, and Steve. Well, if you're here, stand up, be recognized. Thank you very much. Sam's a retread. He was here before, but we welcome him back anyways. MasterCard, current MasterCard, and we got new contracts and expansions, the new NGA Tomorrow team with 1 data engineer, a new River Run team with 2 data engineers, and the Yoshi and Luigi at Enterprise with 4 data engineers. And I want to plug Hours with Experts. It is not just for data engineers. If you're interested in learning about some data engineering techniques and practices, mostly related to what I talked about with Pond, feel free to hit up Nick and see if you'll get accepted. All right, passing over to Matt.
All right, so on the DexSci side, our anniversaries are me. I celebrated 4 years. That was fun. I can't believe it's been 4 years. Amit celebrated 6 years. That's awesome. Amit's not here, right? Is Amit here? He's not here, right? That's a shame. All right. This is super exciting also. We had our first new hire in DexSci in years. Mark, can you stand up? This is my friend Mark. Correctly, I'm sorry. We also had 1 successful internship. Sean came back, made some great contributions to the ring team, not to the ring team, to the ringtones team. So that was great. So thanks to Ashan, we had 0 unsuccessful internships, which is also very important. Clients, Kingdom Capital, I talked about that work earlier. That's very exciting. We're doing some great DexSci work for Kingdom Capital. And then new contracts. We have 2.5 data scientists working for ringtones for Ring. So that's really cool. So do you guys remember a month ago? It was August. It was summer. It was warm. Pandemic was winding down. We were hiring in DexSci. We were hiring in data engineering. We're getting new contracts. We're getting new clients. And so Fish started working on a slide at that time. Started working on a slide to describe the DexSci practice. He wanted to say, what is DexSci? And so he built this slide. I was off by a slide.
Up our slide. That's okay though.
Do you guys remember August? It was warm. See, I said he should have done this from the plane.
Yes, big call there.
So he built this slide.
Next slide.
A Matt, a Mitt, and a Mark all over a fish. That's DexSci. Matt, a Mitt, and a Mark all over. Anyway, again, he should have done it for the fish. From the plane, I think delivery would have been better. He also, in typical Fish fashion, made an edgier version of the slide, which I am not going to show. And so this was DexSci. This is our equation. This is our formula. This is our 7 herbs and spices at the time. But then everything changed.
So, problem was, we had a problem with data engineering, and bottom line, Kid's just a quitter. He just quit on us. No, we really appreciate Kid. He did so much for data engineering, and but third of data engineers. A third of the data engineers are remote, and more than 50% of data engineers are not on Pond right now, which is, I think, the first time it's ever happened. Even Steve Lewis didn't want the job. So we needed to rework the equation. Data science, decision science, data engineering equals the data practices. So we'll be the data practices, but we're going to be separate but equal data practices. So decision science and data engineering will still be 2 separate practices under Fish, and we'll be stronger together. Keeping two. Were you supposed to do this or was? Oh, I don't.
Do it together.
Let's do it together. It's scary. We actually we pitched that. It was rejected. Keeping 2 different data practices, but working close together. Using the expertise from both practices to build new and exciting platforms like we did for Spire and Mercy, expertise, data sharing, and new opportunities to embrace analytics and have some fluidity between the 2 practices. So we talked about that this morning. If you want to learn more about data engineering or data science, feel free to talk to any one of us or Fish, and we'd be happy to help you if that's your goal in your career. And there's a bunch of leadership opportunities. We didn't talk about the Apple. We're kind of got a couple of Apple positions available in data science and data engineering to help with the load. But so if you're interested in that, it'd be really important. And it wouldn't be a data engineer or data science without a bunch of cool graphs. From the beginning of the year, you can tell we are, like Sean said, we are in growth mode. We've grown from 6 data engineers and 3 decision science to we'll have 5 and 13 by the end of this year, which is amazing. And we got data engineering, where we are in the different projects. So MasterCard, Enterprise, I don't know if you can read all that. It's pretty small. But decision science, we've got a bunch of people, and all the engineers that are working on all our different projects.
Yeah, so rather than each project, each individual practice being dependent heavily on a single practice, so over here, or a single project, so over here, DexSci is very dependent on Kingdom Capital. Over here, data engineering is very dependent on MasterCard. Combined, we have a more spread out
Much better
portfolio.
coverage across all the different projects with all the people. So I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thanks to everybody for keeping us on schedule. There's a lot going on in these meetings. Before we break for lunch, and I don't know if Julie's going to want to come up here and explain what we're going to do. I think you might have noticed we had an alumni in the room who's going to be soon not an alumni, but a returnee, Michael Rich Ahern. Welcome back, Mike. Starts Monday, but he couldn't wait, so he came today. When I think about all the things we talked about this morning, I couldn't be more proud of everyone in this room. Obviously, back to those three things, our 3 whys, transformative career stop. Clients come to us for crunchy problems and making a difference in the community. It takes all of us to make that happen, and clear evidence of that in this morning's presentations. We'll take a break, we'll have lunch, we'll come back, we'll have one more team update, the team at Mora working at NGA, and then several updates from operations. I'll let you know how we're doing, and then we'll have our traditional Q&A at the end, and then we'll have a fun event. Where's Julie? Julie? I think she's out setting up lunch. So please be back in here promptly at 1 o'clock. See you soon. Okay, so our third and final team update, Team Morrow. You're on the clock.
All right, I'm going to get us started here and then hand it off to Paul. So we're Team Morrow, and we work with NGA. Brock? All right, so here's our team. So we got Paul Weiss, Jacob Schwartz as our human-centered designers, and then we have Patrick Moulton, Charles Mitzi, and Paul Matthews, who are all here. Paul obviously is right here. Jacob is not with us today, and then myself, and we have quality assurance, Brock Sterling. And Brock, here's what we're doing. So here's our challenge. We are rebuilding this thing called AIMS. There's a lot of acronyms at NGA. This is one of them. And it's the Aeronautical Information Management System. Basically, it just allows them to work with data that they use eventually on a cockpit to plan missions. And so we are modernizing a suite of roughly 10, they call them modules, but they're applications, and this will enable 200 analysts to work in an unclassed environment. Right now they have to work in a SCIF, which is like a very secure facility, and a lot of these applications don't need to be in a SCIF. So in addition to that, we're using all those really cool technologies to basically build a cloud-native design from the ground up. And we're making the data store leaner and more performant. We may have to be doing like a UC. UC is their lower, like not as secure environment. TC is like their top secret environment. So we may need to create a data pipeline between the two. That's what we've heard. We're not there yet. And then we're doing a lot of UX redesign. So we're interviewing the users using the existing application. And then we take those interviews and we figure out what can we make better. And so that's ultimately what we're going to talk about today. And Paul's going to run through a ton of that and show you kind of that process from the get-go. So.
Okay, hold on to your seats. This is going to go by fast. So design goals. NGA gave us one big goal was to keep it familiar, not to change the labels. Or I don't know if they were expecting from a creative, but it was keep labels, keep the flow going. Well, I was expecting was to keep at least 2 sprints ahead of development. This is doable. Think prep cook in a restaurant, and then hopefully if we have time, I'll get back to that. Create design systems for reusable components. This is the first thing we talked about, was creating reusable components. We have 9, we're doing 1 app right now, Kappa, but we have 8 others to follow, 8 or 9, and we want to make sure we can do plug and play components. We can use them over and over again. This is one of the most important ones, create a positive and secure environment for users. We want them to feel comfortable, we want it to be personable, we want to be positive so they actually feel free to say whatever they want in front of product owners and everybody without retribution or anything. So it's very lighthearted and everything. And show all things to everyone at one time at a designated time. This is for designs and prototypes. Get everybody in the room at one time. Let them look at it. We talk about it. We reiterate on it. Everybody's on the same page. The devs are there. Everybody knows what's going on at one time. Brock. Okay, let's go to the process. Hey, let's get some users to interview. This is one of the first things I always do. I get a list of users. NGA said, yeah, you get one. You get one user to interview. Okay. Well, let's play with the app. We can't wait to dig in. They said, well, we can't have you do that, so we're going to give you 2 screenshots. And that's all we got to start off with. One thing I learned right away was, first of all, get Glenn to keep asking him for this stuff. And then the other thing is, take what you have and then show progress every week to gain trust and confidence with your client. Brock. First thing I did was create a user flow diagram. This is a flow chart of all the touch points and data points throughout the app. When we look at apps, we look at them at one page at a time. This spreads it out so you can see the scope of a project. This also helps with data pointing a little bit, but this is from entry point to submission. Brock. NGA style guide. Well, AIMS, as a matter of fact, is styled 2 different ways because it was built at 2 different times, and it is actually developed in 2 different kind of languages. And none of them are the style guide in which they're supposed to follow. So basically, we took the NGA style guide, which is really a good style guide. I mean, it builds it out to templates and pages and stuff like that, kind of like a design system, and we used that, Brock. So what we did in Figma was we recreated the style guide in Figma here to where we can copy and paste things and create rapid prototyping within pages. We created page templates, which we'll come to that here in a second. And the interview. Okay, our one interview is with Haley. She's the admin of the Kappa tool. She had some great insights. Devs were there. Devs were represented there. Glenn was there. I was there, and the product owner was there. And we went through it. Very casual, very personable, very conversational. It was great. She had a great time. In fact, we have a comment from her at the end of this. It went over so well that they threw people at us after that because we weren't trying to steal state secrets or anything. So it worked out real good. Brock. Okay, here's some page layouts. So what we want to do is create templates for page layouts. There's 2 columns. There's a wireframe up here with a panel, without a panel, so that we don't have to build these every time. So the devs, Charles and Patrick, have been building these, so we can just throw components in, make it easy. Brock. Okay, this is in Figma also. This is a functionality flow for creating a ticket. You can look at these individually, or you can play it like a click-through prototype. I'd love to show you that, but we don't have time. Thanks, Sean. Brock. Oh, UX Roundup. Okay, we did this with Vesta. Eric knows this really well. UX Roundup is where I take my mock-ups and prototypes and show them to everybody. Devs, product owners, Glenn, the user. We have a user there, and basically it's trial by fire. I say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, and people either say, Paul, you're a genius, or they say, why the hell are they paying you? But we get feedback, and from the developers and everything. They have technical knowledge of what we can and cannot do. The owner has knowledge of the program itself. So I give it my best guess, and then I get the feedback, and I make those changes. Brock. Okay, this is our QA process, basically. So once I've done the feedback changes and everything, I give it to the developers, and they create it in a dev environment, and they come back, and we look at it, and we make sure that it matches the mocks, it matches the flows that we have and everything. So, and then they ask me questions like, hey, what were you thinking? And then I have to tell them, or I have to make changes here. Brock. And then testing reiteration. So we get the people that we interviewed initially, we get them back, we have them look at what we made in the dev environment, we have them click through it, and then we rate. They rate us. and they tell us what they think, frustration points and everything. Then we go back, we make changes, and we reiterate everything. Okay, Rob. Okay. Their human-centered design process was a fresh and modern approach that I've never experienced before. It's impressed me so much that at the end of the interview, I was left with a feeling of hope that things might actually improve. Hope is a powerful thing when you have zeroed out your expectations. So this is kind of a backhanded compliment. Hey, you're doing a great job, but my expectations were low. In fact, they were 0. If I could use a negative number, I maybe would have, but I went with 0. Next one. It has been a positive experience. The team has been attentive and proactive with a dedication to understanding the process and the use of the tools. The weekly meetings, the UX roundup, and the email coordinations are the correct amount of time at this stage in the development process in which the team has demonstrated progress and improvements to the tool. These two things we didn't ask them for it, they gave it up themselves. And the thing is, to me, that is a true measure of a good process, is when you get your client singing your praises. I mean, you can create the greatest app in the world, but if the client's involved and they feel like they're empowered to create a good product, this is what you get. Thank you.
Thanks, Team Morrow. One thing I'd say too, what's really impressed me about this is you would think the government would be a difficult place to do our full process, our whole HCD Agile. But in fact, they've been really drinking it up. They really, and I think it's a testimony to everybody on Team Morrow that they've taken the opportunity when the government's offered it and really done things in a way that is very harmonious between the design process and the delivery or development process. So, nice job. Okay, so now we're going to go and do a bunch of operations updates. First up, Julie, are you in? Okay, well, timing is everything. Here's Julie.
I'm on the clock. Okay. So, a couple weeks ago, we had a lunch and learn about our community outreach. Prior to, this cord is not long. Prior to COVID, we launched Lifting the Lou at 1904 as part of our community outreach arm. We did one event, and then we did which we don't talk about, it's Scrantonosity. It's a great event, benefited 3 of our community partners, and then we did an event for MS and raised over $6,000 in a telethon style event. But it was hard to do events virtually with COVID, so we kind of pulled back a little bit. Everyone was dealing with enough. What we're doing right now is we're refreshing our community outreach. We've had several meetings, have gotten some really good feedback and some ideas. And so I'd like to just kind of go over a little bit about what our community outreach is at 1904. Sean talked a little bit about this earlier when he talked about our why at 1904. So we have 3 buckets or 3 type of people that we like to serve with our outreach: children, the unhoused, and adults that are on the wrong path. There are 3 different ways that we consider for giving. I think a lot of us, when we hear about charities or nonprofits, automatically we think about donations or monetary. How can we support them with our treasures? Well, we like to have other options as well as treasures, and that's time and talent. So part of our innovation time is one of the 4 buckets there, is that you can work on a community project. That's giving of your time or talents. So I just want to remind everyone, sometimes it might feel like, oh, we're supporting this charity or we're supporting this community partner. There's different ways to be involved. It's not all monetary. Okay, so this, our last all hands was in April. This was our drawing a blank. Our showcase with Coders Showcase, Talent Showcase, that we did in May with our Coders program with Lift for Life students. We feel really famous, those of us that made their newsletter over the summer. But more than that, it's just about being able to teach these amazing students how to code. And I think all of our volunteers, I'm not even going to try and name them because I'll leave someone out and then I'll feel terrible. But it is a great program, and I'm really excited that we're getting ready to launch it again at the end of this month on September 29th. If you want to be a volunteer, there's still time. If this fall doesn't work for you, we do 2 sessions a year. We do fall and we do spring. I would also encourage you, if you don't have the time and you don't want to commit to being a volunteer for Coders, you can attend our talent showcase. Thanks to Ryan and Claire who came last time. It's really a great way to get involved and see the work and the thought and the creativity that these students put into building their apps. This is another community outreach we had. This was school supplies that we collected for Lift for Life Academy. I had a couple people ask to have some money taken out of their paycheck, which we will absolutely do. If you tell me a dollar amount, I work with the back office and they take that amount from an upcoming one of your paychecks, and then we put it towards purchasing school supplies. I had a couple of our employees that challenged their own kids as they were going back to school shopping to maybe reach into their piggy bank, and then the parents matched whatever the kids did. And I thought that was really a creative way to get their kids involved. And you can see we had 2 full boxes of donations. So you can get involved too. We've got all these things coming up. Like I said, our community outreach group is meeting every other week. We've got, like I said, Coders coming up. We are also going to be teaching at a tech innovation program similar to Coders at Tabernacle Community Development. Their hub up in North City. Community outreach, we're going to do a sandwich making event. We've got Movember coming up. For those of you who don't want to shave or you want to walk, there's other ways to be involved. Mission St. Louis is doing their affordable Christmas again this year. And we've got some volunteering opportunities. And then, like I said, the talent showcase, put it on your calendar now for Coders. It's Thursday, December 15th. And we do always plan those during innovation hours. So most of you, if you have the time, we'd love to have you come. Okay, so that concludes the portion of community, and now we're moving on to people. I wanted to just call out real quick Jennifer and Madison that are here. Can you all stand up? So you'll hear me say back office like I just did. This is our back office, and no, we don't literally stick them in a back office somewhere with like no windows. They're actually from sunny Tampa, or not Tampa, Orlando, so don't feel too bad for them. But really appreciate their trip here. This is their second time that they've come to visit us for our All Hands, and I would utilize them while they're here. If you have any questions during the Ask Me Anything, go ahead and ask those, but welcome. So we've had, I know other practices have brought this up, but I really think this is fun. So if you have joined us since the last All Hands in April, please stand up. We've got Jim, Max, Josiah, Wes, Paul, Mark, as well as Andrew, Chris, Tara, Justin, and Steve, who just started on Monday but is not with us today. So that's pretty exciting. I mean, it's been 5 months and we've had that many new hires. So welcome, and I hope, well, Jim, I know, where are you, Jim? Oh, you came before you joined, so this is actually your second All Hands, but you're an old pro at this now. We have what we like to call a boomerang. So Sam, welcome back. You look a little different. Got that new headshot today. I'm glad to have you back. That's something that's really important at 1904, and you'll hear Sean say it. We want you to have a career at 1904 for as long as you want to be here, as long as it makes sense. And sometimes you get great opportunities that you want to go try out. You know, we want to see you advance your career, advance your future. But if you want to come back, we want to welcome you back too. And so it's really exciting to be able to have this slide and welcome people back. And then next time we have an all hands, we'll have this person, Michael. Michael Ricks Ahern joins us officially on Monday. He's another boomerang. I'll recognize you next December, but I couldn't let it pass without you being here. So I just want to, like I said, just give everyone a round of applause. Thank you to all of our new hires. Thank you to TA for continuing to find us great hires. Then I have a few quick fun facts. One that's not even on here is Laura. Where's Laura at? You are our only two-time Tickled Pink winner so far. So feather picker winner. So you're like setting records today. That's really exciting. Okay, so I've gotten some questions about personal and professional development funds. That's coming up. It is $1,200 for a year. You basically get $100 per month. If you just joined us, those people that just stood up, your amount is prorated for the year. So just figure $100 a month. Get your expenses in before December 31st. Or Jennifer and Madison will come after you. Just kidding. They're really nice. I'm just kidding. But only about 75% use their professional and personal development funds. The most commonly purchased items are home office items, gym memberships, books, and audiobooks. So get your funds in. And then on the portal, I wanted to let everyone know that we've recently added 2 columns. I think this is really important as we continue to grow, and we're in our 6th year. We've added the start dates for all employees, and then it populates how long they've been at the lab. So if you want to talk to someone who's been here a long time, you can definitely find out who's been here the longest, or if you're wondering, you're new to a team and you're like, who's been here the longest, who's the newest? You can kind of sort and find that information. Did someone want me? Okay, and then thank you, Mark. He added a Go link so you can get there really quickly too. So just some upcoming events that you can be involved in. Obviously today's All Hands. After the All Hands, we're doing a game time event. One of my surveys was from the last April All Hands, and we did the scavenger hunt, and you all loved that. But one of the feedback I got was that you wanted to just kind of have a happy hour and be able to mingle. So we're going to just have some games and activities. We're doing the game day pool. You can see it here. You don't need me to read it to you. But more information will be coming out soon. And just stay up to date. Go to the portal. If you have questions, ask them in benefits or ask me anything.
Hello, everyone. Somebody suffering food coma from lunch yet? Anybody? I am. Lunch was delicious. Thank you, Julie. So, ready? You got the food? It was awesome. All right, so I've got a few updates to share today. We talked last time, so far we've talked about who we are, what we do, and why 1904 Labs. So that's been a lot of things we've covered today. Today I'm hoping to cover some of the how we do those things in reference to HCD Agile. So last All Hands, I shared the same Agile report. We looked at specifically, I think, the issues facing companies that are adopting Agile teams, or Agile adoption rates. This time I thought it might be fun to cover how do organizations manage success. And so when you look at Agile adoption within companies, and we think of 1904 Labs, how do we get our adoption rates up? How do we get those adoptions to increase with our teams? So I'm not going to cover all of them, thank goodness, because there's a lot on here. But I will cover the first 3. Specifically, it's business value delivered, make sure I read them correctly, customer satisfaction, and velocity. I want to cover those sort of in turn. Starting with business value. So when Carol and I created HCD Agile way back when, 6 years ago, when we got together and said, what are the things that add value? We realized, stealing a page from Covey, of course, Sean, you'll appreciate this, seeking first to understand. And Franklin Covey, by the way, was probably the first Agilist in the world, in my opinion. Everything he does really falls in line with a lot of the Agile concepts. But we put in seek first to understand, and that's why we created the discovery phase of the process. Want the teams out there, and we're seeing this happen today as we kind of go back to doing more of that in delivery, is understanding exactly how we add that value. What is it that the client wants? What is success for them? And understanding those things in discovery before we go to delivery. I think I said delivery. before we go to discovery. From a customer satisfaction perspective, this is where DX and delivery coming together really adds a lot of value. So again, going back to some of the foundations, DX folks bring a ton of knowledge of understanding what it is. How do we validate that we're doing the right thing? We do that through journey maps and user acceptance testing and a ton of different techniques that DX offers to help us really understand what adds value and is that value being delivered. On the delivery side, we've also intentionally put in things like the client check-ins and the CDEs. So those sorts of things are to get us to make sure we're understanding delivering value to the clients. But again, we're wanting to track those things. And then the last one is velocity. As an Agilist, I found this interesting. For those of you that all of you have been doing Agile for a while, for the most part, I think, velocity is not a measure of success. It's not even a measure of value. But it does speak to the fact that clients out there, what they do value is a metric, an objective standard that they can look at and say, is this team successful? So within that, we're going to be leaning, I think Sean may have mentioned this earlier, or Serena, I forget which, but we're leaning in a lot of the deterministic Agile kind of practices. We're going to start tracking some of those values in very objective ways. And not just velocity, things like, did we meet our commitments? What was our success rate? What was our defect rate? Different kinds of statistics that we can point to and say, we were successful. And all this boils down to really, we're defining success early on, then we're validating success with HCD, and we're eventually going to track and measure success on the end. So that's how HCD Agile is hopefully going to address some of our adoption rate pieces. There'll be other things that'll work into that as well. The other question that I've been asked a lot, or has come up a lot lately, is on leadership models. And I asked to talk about this during the presentation only because it aligns with a lot of Agile perspectives. There's several different leadership models: traditional hierarchies, servant leadership, and serving leadership. I wanted to cover a little bit of how those are different and why it's important. Most of our clients are traditional hierarchies. The president tells the vice president, you're going to do this. The vice president says, okay, do this. He tells the people to do this. And the clients get whatever the development team delivers. It's that top-down perspective. It's basically a control and manage organization. There is definitely a need, and there will always be a need, for controlling and managing organizations. It doesn't go away, but there's more to it than that when it comes to leadership. On the servant leadership model, it sort of upends the pyramid on that. It's a supportive model, where the president of the company, in this case, Sean's perspective, he'll set the goals. The leadership team will figure out how to enable those goals. The AELs and the leaderships in the team will figure out how to support the people doing those goals. We're eventually going to support the customers at the top end of the pyramid, or at the bottom end when we upend it. But that's a support and enablement model. And that's really huge. I mean, this was a big deal for Agilists when it came out. How do we support and enable instead of command and control? And we just love that. But it's not enough. We realize that servant leadership is a good thing, but we can do better. And this is where a lot of the early thought went into, like, the PGP goals and trying to help people grow. And this is where that serving leadership sort of upends things completely. As leaders, we're trying to help everybody run with great purpose, make sure that they know what the goal is, make sure that they can obtain it. We're trying to push everybody to raise the bar to get better at what they do. Not just do the work, but what can we do that next step up? How can we go that one more mile if we're running or doing something in that perspective? And blaze the trail and build on their strengths. So again, the idea of serving leadership is really not just supporting enable, but helping people drive to success. And that's a huge thing. So when you hear those terms in the lab, between a traditional manager role versus a servant leadership model versus a serving leadership model, this is kind of what we mean. And there's a great book, this is, I think, on the top bookshelf for Sean, which is The Serving Leader. It's one of those top 1904 books, kind of like Covey. It's a great book to read. I highly recommend it. It has a lot more insights into how serving leadership models can work within a company. And with that, I want to change gears. So that's on the Agile update side. Going now to the IT update side, going through the company. I thought it'd be interesting to take a look back in time. So 1904 Labs, we started in 2016. I could think wrong. In 2016, when I started working for 1904 Labs, sort of from the CIO role, we had a Google Apps for Business. We basically had an email address. That was it. I mean, we got our equipment from, I think, Monsanto at the time. We had an email address. I don't think we had a website when we launched. We did shortly thereafter, but it was pretty quick. It was just started with this. But since then, while I've been working on the CIO role, we've done a lot of different things. We've enabled over 50 different pieces of software. less than small improvements, basically everything needed to run the business, from marketing to sales to people operations to internal development tools, DX tools. Not me personally, but the labs in general has evaluated a lot of these pieces of software to try and pick the best of the breed to get all those in place to actually make the company work. We've implemented SSO integration across most of our key systems, enabled IT infrastructure like AWS, Google Cloud, create policies needed for clients or for the labs, develop solutions, and this is kind of fun. Feather Picker, which you saw earlier, Birthday Bot, which we haven't hit yet, Wally, of course, the early Wally and all the ringtones work and ring work, and most recently, of course, the 1904labs.com website. Round of applause for Kelly for getting online. Thank you. Everybody else posted involved. But that was awesome. We also learned early on as a lot of clients struggled to go remote when COVID hit. 1904 Labs, we already had a head start. We knew how to do that already, but we got better at it. And we did add a lot of hybrid tools along the way to make it even more effective. So we've got a lot of those hybrid tools in place to go through that. And then last but not least is we provided a lot of ongoing support for the labs. And I do want a special call out to Mark Brooks and Julie for the work that they've done. Mark Brooks does a ton of stuff in the background. And Julie, bless her heart, with everything else she has on her plate, also configures all the laptops we have need and does a lot of the infrastructure tracking. So those two have really been insanely helpful in keeping this place running. And the last thing I wanted to cover was sort of the switch. I've been asked also recently, sort of the CIO transition. Why CIO versus capability lead? For one, I think I can do a whole lot more for the company as a capability lead role, which is what I'm stepping into. Two, a lot of the IT operations that we built on the CIO, which is sort of this first side over here. Oh, I can use the lead. Ooh, this side. So a lot of it was necessary early on when we started the company. We had to create that infrastructure. We had to figure out what tools we needed. We needed the strategic understanding of what do we need foundationally as an IT organization to make the company run. A lot of that work sort of fell into a category which is sort of the CIO land. But over the last 2-3 years, mostly, this is everything that I've been doing, is the Director of IT Operations. Titles are titles. It's the job that the title involves which is important. And these are important things, both of them. Not meaning to diminish it. But it made sense when we look back at it going, how do we really restructure labs where we are today as a mature company, even though we're still a startup-minded company, but in a more mature role for the director role. And Mike, who's been relatively lazy since he got here, will be hiring and looking at the next director of IT. And I'll be working with that person, hopefully to make sure that all that comes up to play when that's done. Until then, of course, I'll be keeping both hats on. And with that, I will close with saying, just on the support side for those that are new, if you do have IT issues, we've got a couple of channels you can reach through. There's the support at 1904labs.com email address. It's sort of a ticketing system. Think of it as, hey, I got a bug, it needs to be fixed, needs to be addressed. The email's perfect for that. But the other more accepted channel is the support channel inside Slack. And the wonderful thing about that is you guys answer most of the questions. So if anybody has a question about how I do something, somebody can jump in and give that answer, which is just an amazing thing. But those are great things. If there's other questions, of course, you can also hit the Ask Me Anything or reach out to me later for questions. That's all I got.
Alrighty, so our clock has already started, but most of you should know at least the one of us coming into the company. I am Carmen. This is Laura and Melinda. We are the super creeps. We know how to creep on you, and then you all teach us new ways to creep on other people. It's a wonderful life we have here. Laura's going to go over this first slide.
Okay. So fun fact, I hate public speaking, and this is the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done in my life. So we'll just get that out of the way. So here you see the source production graph is the source of where we get our candidates. I will let you read the numbers. Y'all are good at numbers, but at the bottom you will see kind of where these people have come from. Much of what we did kind of early on in the lab's time was sourcing. And I mean, year to date, we're doing pretty good to our goal. But what I do want to kind of highlight is the other numbers that are kind of rising. And these are big deals for us, including the referrals
which we're over 50% of our goal year to date with 6 referrals or 6 hires from referrals. So this is through the efforts of folks like y'all and people that have worked in the labs previously, sending people our way. Next we have agency, and this is where our forecasts and goals obviously are the most off. Currently we're partnering with 3 agencies and just working towards hopefully our first hire from these recruiting agencies. And then the last is organic applications through the website. So candidates in this category are folks that have found us and applied. I would like to kind of just stop and take a moment to give kudos to marketing. Obviously, without them, we wouldn't have it found, but also each and every one of you. I know that y'all refer people, but you being you and kind of going out into the world and being stewards of us and the labs, we've heard that you inspire folks that want to join us. So round of applause for you guys, and you helping drive us too. So that's the end of that one. And then we move over to the health of our interview process, where you can see we are surpassing our year-to-date goal with our screening. We, let's see, down towards the bottom, you'll see that we had so far, and I don't know if you guys can see it over there, or y'all, 809 applications so far. Of those 809 folks, our department screened 181. 110 of those people that we screened moved on to the second stage of our interview, which was the technical conversation, resulting in 55 final interviews. So again, you can read kind of the graphs, and you know, we're super happy with where we're at on the virtual stage. The technical stage, where we pass people on to the second stage, is probably where our department can tighten up a little bit. And then, you know, we're doing pretty well in the offer and offer accept stage. So as a whole, we're pretty close to hitting our year-to-date goals. And that's all I got. So 28 hires so far this year. Okay, that's inclusive of Michael, so, you know, not really until Monday. But, you know, I just want to put it in there. But as you can see, that means we had 55 on-sites, right? Or virtual interviews. There's 3 to 4 people involved in all of those interviews. We now have 79 people. I don't know how to do math, but we hired 28 people. The whole point is that we asked for a lot of time from a lot of people in this room at the beginning half of the year, and we really, really appreciate it. So just know that, like, we really appreciate you all being you and being open to being part of our process. And if you started last year or beginning of this year, get ready, because we're coming your way to help us out as well. So I just wanted to kind of tell y'all what we've been doing since April. Since we are now working with the NGA, there are a lot of regulations, federal guidelines that we had to kind of put in place and comply by. And a lot of those fell really heavily onto the People Operations Department in general. Claire has done a huge lift with some stuff that you all don't have to worry about. It's in the background. And we've had to put a lot of things in place in TA. So I thought, you know, it might be kind of nice to just know that we've done some of this work. So one of the big things is that every person who applies to 1904 now needs to, like, click the button. And you wouldn't think that would be a big deal, but it actually is. Sometimes that hurdle between talking to someone proactively and them applying can drop off if we are asking them to do it themselves versus like, oh, just send me your resume and then we'll set up more talks and it'll be really fun. But I think we've done really well. I can only think of a handful of folks who have dropped out from that stage. That was something we were a little bit worried about. And then, you know, we just cleaned up our job descriptions. And then I think the most interesting thing that we've done since April
is we added a platform called Circa, and it has a diversity recruitment element to the platform. So really what this has done is supercharged our reach, and it reaches something like 15 million candidates. I don't know what their timeline is, probably annually, I don't know. And it's across 600 plus employment sites, plus 14 niche diversity and niche job sites. So, just being able to be part of this platform is also just continuing to help our efforts. And then we just wanted to kind of highlight some of the things we've been doing in the community. The thing that was really interesting when I was putting this slide together is all of this, except for I think one, is since April. So again, we're coming out of the pandemic. People are starting to congregate a little bit more. This is something that was kind of our bread and butter previously that we're getting back to, and it's fun. And we've had some really neat events that we've been part of, but part of the reason we like to show this is basically here at the bottom. If there's other events going on that you all are attending or know about, or you think that we should have a presence at, let us know. Also, when you go there yourselves, you could put on these cool logoed shirts or t-shirts, or bring your water bottle. I don't know. You being you really helps us in the community, so keep it up. And then the fun stuff. So I talk about this every all hands. I just wanted to point out, so far this year, we have paid out over $30,000 to our own people in referral money. So since April, I must have taken it off there, sorry. Since April, we've had 3 people qualify for the $10,000 bonus with our referral program, which we really, really appreciate. We got a ton of activity coming out of this in April, and just so you all know, we really appreciate all of these leads and introducing us to people. Unfortunately, people may not always be qualified in the moment, but it is always good to know that our people want to connect good people with the company. So we really appreciate all your efforts. We still have this program in place, so go get that money, and let us know if there's anyone out there we should chat with. Done.
Hey y'all.
DEI!
DEI! Thank you. Whoa, sorry. I'm adjusting. Okay. Hey everyone, my name is Jocelyn. I'm the DEI Spark. Yeah. That means that I am the product owner for the diversity group's backlog. So we are taking on some of the skills, practices we use in building software solutions and using them to help 1904 get more diversity. Yeah. I'm being very serious. Thank you. One thing that there we go. I feel like I need actually reaffirmed is I'm going to ask Sean right now. Sean, does 1904 want more diversity?
Absolutely.
He said absolutely. He didn't have a mic. I'm sorry. I set that up weird. But he said absolutely. We want more diversity. It is a core belief of ours. I'm going to try to move. But I'm so sorry about this. Okay. So this is a core belief. This was added. It was not an original core belief, but it is one now. It is legit. It is fact. That we strive to foster an inclusive and equitable workplace. Our solutions are better when different types of people work on them and build them. That's software solutions, that's leadership solutions, that is everything that we're doing. It gets better when you fly your freak flag. I want to see your freak flag. I want to work with it. Thank you. Carefully walk back over here. All right. Ways to get involved. Sorry, the text on this is a little bit small. The group generally is run by Slack. You must have Slack to participate. I'm sorry. We are a little bit asynchronous, but we want you to be as involved as you want to be, and that's going to involve communicating via Slack. We have 2 channels. One is a public channel. This might change in the future. One is a working group channel, which is up to the minute. I go to meetings. I might deal with stuff that's not yet fully baked, or we're still working on it. Then we have a series of meetings. We have bi-weekly meetings, which are task updates. We have a JIRA board. We work on refinement. We do, I would say, very, very in the details activities in those meetings. Well, we have, so far it's happened once, but there will be some cadence where we have a priorities lunch. Thanks to everybody that came to the last one. We had, I think, over 18 people. 18 was the max that I saw in the participants count, but I think people came in and out. Where we did a giant Miro board. It was very, very disciplinedly run. And the top 3 things that came out of that were people wanted us to look at diverse hiring pipelines, pay transparency, and improving the parental leave. So far, we have been working on the hiring pipelines piece. This is a careful dance that we're doing. There are competing interests here. One, people generally want to see more diverse faces or engineers. They don't necessarily know what, people's identity, characteristics, demographics are here, and we can't have that information. Carmen is helping educate us with what we can know, because those classes, equal employment opportunity classes, are protected information. We cannot have it. And so we have to work together from these kind of opposing, you could say, viewpoints to negotiate what we can actually do and be effective so that we can achieve that big, huge goal for 1904. Number 1. Number 2, pay transparency. This is a similar issue where we do have a lot of legal consequences if people's pay information gets exposed without them knowing. Of course, you are free to share this information, and no company can prevent you from doing that, including 1904, of course. Sean has offered to give an AMA on pay specifically. Look for that. If you're interested, I want to hear about it. And then the third one we haven't really talked about yet, but is parental leave. If you care about these things, I want to hear about it. I want you to tell your AELs, your APLs, whoever you have your one-on-ones with. I want you to respond to the survey. Right? The DEI group does look at the DEI specific information on the survey, and that's how part of what's going into these priority meetings. So that does get consumed, just so you're aware. But also, I want to hear about it because that's how we decide what we work on next. Sorry, I got off topic. We also have an all-hands lunch to help build trust because we are working together and because these conversations are a little spicy. It's tough, talking about pay and identity and those things is tough. So we've had some really hard, meaningful conversations. If you have time for them, great. Of course, no worries. Let's see. We have an onboarding doc now. That's cool. There's a link in the slides. I'm sure we'll get to there. Yes, just call out the employee survey. I'm getting through all my bullets. And say hey to me. These are our things that we're really learning from these meetings. My first warning is discomfort may occur. I'm going to say that again. These meetings are spicy. You may get offended, but we are really leaning into radical candor here and seeking first to understand and listening to other people's perspectives and seeing why they care about what they care about. And so you may get offended, but hopefully you have the strength and support of your community to talk about that. Next one, people have different experience with different stuff. So say why and what you're doing when you're doing something explicitly. One thing we've definitely ran into so far is some people build software and some people have different roles in the labs. So if we're gonna use a software model and a product backlog model, we need to call that out. So those are some good things. We'll keep doing that. Always good to remember that everybody comes to those meetings because they care about the diverse community that 1904 is and that uses technology and that's how we build better technology. Okay, let's see, what else did I write here? Oh yeah, and then we have some wins. Our attendance is way up. Radical candor and practice, I talked about those a little bit. We also have some updates to job descriptions. So this is going toward that diverse candidates piece. The first one is we have a blurb in the job descriptions now about 1904 Labs being an equal opportunity employer. So We want that. We say that in our job descriptions now. And the second one is we added a blurb about applying anyway. So statistically, right, underrepresented groups can kind of auto-select or self-select out of applying for jobs if they feel like they don't meet all of the qualifications, but we want to encourage people to apply anyway. And I hope that that's something that you all are doing as you're referring people to 1904 Labs, is kind of helping push that over the line and get those people to click the button. Okay, I think that's all I have. Yeah, thanks everyone.
All right, so before we jump into this, let me introduce the marketing team. I am Alexandra. If you're curious how to pronounce my last name, it's Hayfley. For all the people out there, guess it. So I lead the marketing team here at 1904. I've been here 2.5 years. And then we are slowly growing our team. So next up we have James Westbrook, who's over there in the back. James has just celebrated his 1-year anniversary with 1904 Labs. And so James is responsible for solutions. So that includes AI-enabled customer service. If you've heard the acronym AECS, that is what it stands for. And then he's also managing partnerships. So that primarily includes AWS right now. So working with Scapes and Dora and others to really manage that AWS relationship along with Tim from sales. And then lastly, his specialty is really around content. So writing content, content strategy, SEO. So kind of helping out with that across the board. Our most recent addition is Hamdullah Hamdar, also out in the back there. Hamdullah joined us just before the last All Hands, so he didn't really know anything about 1904 then, and knows a lot more now. Hamdullah is responsible for social media, so he's the one doing all of our posting, putting together strategy, and then our CRM, which is HubSpot, managing our database and managing email sends, and then analytics and reporting, so tracking what we're doing across the board in marketing and reporting out on it. All right, so what have we done since the last All Hands? We've done a lot of things, but these are going to be a couple highlights. Our big news is Gateway to Innovation 2020 that happened in May, just I think a week or two after the last All Hands. It was our first in-person customer-facing event since early 2020. So that was a big deal, a 1,000-person conference here in St. Louis. Really focused on IT business leaders here at major companies in the St. Louis area. So we had a booth, we had an amazing session where Sean at the last minute stepped in for Tom because he was sick, unfortunately, and Fish presented to a very packed room, very in-demand session, lots of great questions, and as you might imagine, Fish did drop the F-bomb and caused a bit of a stir. So coming out of that, we had a lot of great conversations. Tim is actually still pursuing conversations at Panera related to AI-enabled customer service and our unified conversational customer service solution offering. And then it was so popular that we actually did a webinar in June to kind of replay that content because so many people were like, I want to hear that again. All right. Thanks to Julie and Kelly for stealing my thunder on this, but again, you're going to hear about the website. We did launch the website since the last All Hands, which had been a goal for a very long time. But it's not just a new platform and technology, which is a huge credit to Kelly and Nick, who is our website Spark. But they put a ton of work into it, putting it on a brand new platform, brand new technology. But not just that, we also have brand new design, thanks to Dorsey. So it might look similar because it's still on brand, but brand new content. And then we also rewrote a ton of the pages. So all the practice pages, the home page, the careers pages, the community pages. We have a brand new insights section that kind of pulls all of our insights into one page so people can kind of find things more easily. So all of that is new, which is a huge credit to James. Wrote a ton of that content along with stakeholders across the company. And then more to come. We're also going to roll out new solutions pages, and we're also going to rewrite a lot of our About Us pages, kind of focusing on that why that Sean talked about in his intro. And lastly, we've really ramped up visibility for our community efforts. This is particularly on the website and social media, but really highlighting all the work that our volunteers do in the community that Julie pulls together. We had the Coders Innovation Showcase, or the Coders Showcase in May that Hamdullah made a great video for. We took tons of pictures. We really got a lot of visibility for that on the website through blog posts, through the video, through posting on social media. So really highlighting the amazing things we do in the community. And then Hours with Experts too. Really ramping up visibility for the graduation that Nick and Kit hosted in June, and highlighting kind of all the experience that all of the graduates, not just from this session, but from past sessions had. So our videographer put together an amazing video, a ton of amazing videos, and we use that to really help drive visibility for the session that's kicking off this fall. All right, so what are we doing? What are we doing until the end of the year? So we have a lot of different focus areas, but some of the big things we're focusing on: solutions. So we have been talking about this for a long time, but as part of our kind of big rock conversation within leadership, trying to get those better projects that our teams really want to work on, those challenging problems that we love to tackle, moving to more of a solutions focus, away from talking about our skill sets, more about the things that we build. So James has been working on that with our capability leads, and will continue to work on it with Mike as the Director of Practices and Solutions. So we'll be rolling out how we market around those solutions over the next few months. We've also been having a very heavy focus on AI-enabled customer service, and really building out who are the buyers who are looking for this solution, and then marketing around that. So we kicked off a campaign based on our CIO persona just a couple weeks ago. We're seeing a lot of great engagement there. Social media, as I said, Hamdullah is leading that. He's really focusing on how can we connect with our three main audiences: candidates, clients, and community. Sales tools, working with Jake to really help activate sales with content and messaging that's going to really engage our key buyers and help them close business. And finally, we're looking at external consultancies. How can we get some external expertise to really help us reach the right people and sell more really cool projects? And that's all I got.
Good afternoon. Is that really loud? It feels really loud.
We can hear you.
Don't tell me what to do. I'm gonna stand back here because I feel like this is how you guys see me normally. Like just this part of me. It just feels really comfortable for me for some reason. I'm not sure. All right, so what are we gonna talk about? Like everybody else, we've got a slide that kind of shows the team. We're gonna meet them. I'm gonna remind everybody what we talked about in the first all hands of the year, the last time we got together, of our core focus for 2022, and then we'll get into how we're doing against those goals. And then there's some other things that are going on too. And I'm not going to reread this because Sean already went over it, but I found this on our website internally, and have been thinking about a lot about our why factors as well. Not just because Sean told me to, although that is one of the reasons why. But some of our clients have started to say, "You're different. Why?" Like, I can't quite put my finger on it. Like, I can tell something's different, but what is it? And Eric and I have been working on that a little bit with Bear, because they've actually made a statement that we are about 2 times more effective than the average team. They gave an example. We took them to breakfast, and so maybe because we bought them something, they felt like they had to say something, but we took them to breakfast and they said, "Hey, there was a problem that we were working on that we couldn't figure out how to solve." We gave the same problem to a different vendor, and they didn't know how to solve it. We gave it to you, and not only did you solve it, but you solved it dramatically faster than we anticipated you solving it. You guys have really smart people, but that's not it. Like, there's more to it. So they're acknowledging that you guys are very brilliant individuals, but it's the collection of these individuals and how we empower and how we live the habits that we talk about inside of the serving leadership model and inside of the 7 habits. And he's trying to help us articulate what that means. I got off on a little tangent there. So let's meet the team. If you're on your project and you're working and you're happy with what's going on, this is the team that did it. This is the team that kind of got it started. I put an asterisk next to Sean and Serena, so if you're not happy, it's probably one of them. I put an asterisk next to Sean and Serena because they wear multiple hats. Like, they are working actively in those flows, but they're also doing other things inside of the organization. They're not full-time inside of business development and engaging with new clients. Tim Saunders has been here since January, and I want to say thank you. Hiring Tim has been great. He's exactly the type of person we want at 1904 Labs. But it was, when we were interviewing him, it was kind of like interviewing like a Formula One race car driver and say, hey, we want you to come over here, but we want you to wait a little bit before you race. We're going to do some research on this new car. We're going to do some research over here. We want you to take some, test drives around the track a few times, but we're going to hold off for a little bit. We're ready to start racing, I think. We're getting a lot closer. We're ready to sign some more things, and I'm confident in 2023 we're going to be able to take the full governor off and just go in this AI-enabled customer service practice, and we're really looking forward to seeing how it grows. And then, Serena have already said this, but Bo and Eric have completely taken off all of their hats and are fully dedicated to the CDE role. And we're already seeing tremendous results from that at both Bear and MasterCard. So what did we say we were going to do this year? Our focus is to create a steady flow of qualified leads into the funnel that enable 1904 Labs to sell better projects, expanding our core business offerings, and launching AI-enabled customer service in the year with 3 new clients, and in the year with a monthly run rate of $2 million. Those were our goals. That last one kind of a stretch goal, but a goal. To accomplish this, we need to build an effective and sustainable relationship management process for current, past, and potential relationships, develop selection and success criteria that ensures we are taking the right work in, and partner with marketing to build more effective sales tools that will pique the interest of our target buyers who are not currently aware of us. And when I say not currently aware of us, a lot of the business we've done to date is with people we know somehow. It's based on relationships and referrals. And that will get us a long way, but we will not grow from an 80-person company to a 200-person company to a 400-person company to wherever by relationships alone. We have to be able to ignite the people who have never heard of us, and then finally simplify the referral process. So with relationship management, we've really dug in where we have client delivery executives. That's what CDE stands for, client delivery executives. So MasterCard, Bear. We've also started, because with Ryan and Kit, who have worked at Enterprise before, we've started to map out the relationships at EHI as well. And then in our first partner program, Tim has spent a lot of time with James mapping out our relationship with AWS. And that place is enormous. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this company, but they're big. A lot of people. So we're kind of in progress there, and as we kind of get the process down, we'll start rolling it across other clients as well. Our selection and success criteria, that's done. I mean, done in the sense like we're an agile company, and as we learn more, we'll continue to evolve and make it better. But we did it across 3 dimensions. The companies that we're selecting to do business with, making sure the company aligns with the kind of organization 1904 Labs should be doing business with. The executive, the person kind of at the top of that pyramid that is engaging us, signing the piece of paper, making sure we should be working with them, and then the project itself. And it's been a lot of fun. I would encourage you to call Kelly and Serena and Steve Dixon. We're doing this week with a company, MasterCard, for a new project there. And the level of conversation between 2016 and this last Tuesday at 7 a.m. we're tremendously different. I mean, the types of conversations we're having are very different, and we're escalating where we are. Does that mean the project's going to be perfect? No, probably not. But we're going in with our eyes open, and we know enough to know if we should take the work or not take the work, and if we are going to take the work, what are we getting into? we're gonna do. I've slacked Serena twice about this. She's not responded to me. But we're gonna do a lunch and learn on this sometime. Eli can validate. I've done it twice now. She's not responding to me. But we're gonna do a lunch and learn on this. I think sometime soon, unless she continues to ignore me. We're in the middle of the meeting. Don't do it, man. All right, sales tools with marketing. There's been a strong focus on UCCS, which we also refer to as AI. Well, somebody said earlier, like the NGA has a lot of acronyms. We have a couple. We have a couple too. I can't hear what she's saying. She's notoriously quiet.
What does that mean?
UCCS. Oh my God, I'm gonna forget right now. Unified Customer Contact Center. Am I saying that right? Nope. Sean's shaking his head. Sean's shaking his head.
Unified Conversational Customer Service.
Unified Conversational Customer Service.
Thank you. And it's nestled under AI-enabled customer.
All right, listen, this is my time now. You had your time. But we've done a lot of work. We're doing a lot of work in market research and that, building that overview deck out. And then we've also started to revamp our original story and trying to take it maybe out of a PowerPoint and putting it into more of a story form. So those are some of the things we're working on there. And then finally, simplifying the referral process. This is an area where we've had some traction. We got some really good referrals from MetLife and New Balance, but I need help on this. So look for me to come back to you guys and seek more to understand. We've done this before, but we're not getting the traction that I anticipate here. So I just want to understand why. And then over the last few months, I've gotten some questions from the labs that I wanted to share with the entire group. One is, what do we need to grow? And the first thing we need to do is hire more people in the business development executive role. We have to, Tim and I, we need to grow. That's job number one. Two, we need to maximize our relationships. Like these two things have to be done in tandem. And then the final thing to grow is between marketing, sales, delivery, we need to unify what that process looks like and all start rowing in the same way. And we're always been rowing in the same direction, but not necessarily as in sync as we need to. Somebody also asked me, how do we know if the funnel's healthy? Anybody who wants to talk about the funnel, call me. We can spend hours on this. But these ratios here are kind of how you know. And the reality is, if you look at that problem definition to solution engineering, for every few we put in there, we tend to close one. If you see that section of the funnel empty, we're not healthy. Or if it's light, we're not healthy. If you look at it Monday when we talk, you're going to notice it's not healthy. We need more in that group. That is the number one indicator if it's healthy or not. And then other questions, what happens when a deal's outside the funnel? We are usually trying to build towards qualification of some sort. Most of the time it's budget. I'm out of time. You guys don't get to hear anymore.
You can get a minute wrap up.
I get a minute wrap up. Most of the time, we're trying to qualify for getting more than one executive to say yes to it. Like one person has an idea, but they have to get the buy-in of more than one person. Or they have it and they have to wait for a budget to get approved. Most of the time, that's what we're working towards. A lot of times, we find executives that want to work with us, but they don't have a qualified project right now that we're working towards, so we're building relationships. What about, I get a lot of questions about new locations. Are we willing to go outside of St. Louis? We are. The work that we do is primarily remote at this point in time, but building relationships with people is not an easy task. So unless we can do that remotely, it would kind of be a fool's errand to try to chase a company that's not here where we can meet up with them. But if you guys know people in companies outside of St. Louis where you already have a relationship and you can transfer some of that trust to us, we would absolutely take those calls, have those conversations, land those deals. Sometimes you say a deal didn't work out. Can you explain? New York has asked me that. He's like, you kind of make it sound like you were dating somebody, and you're like, yeah, it's not you, it's me. So when we say that, we are going to do the lunch and learn, assuming Serena responds to me, on the selection criteria, and we'll get into great detail there. But it's typically because they don't want what we have to offer. They're trying to hire a person. They really want a staff aug service, and that's not us. And we walk away from every one of those deals. That doesn't mean we don't get involved in something and learn something after the fact, but we try very hard to qualify those deals. And the final question is, how can I help? And the answer there is, when I come and knock on your door to talk about the referral program, if you know somebody that we should be talking to, please have them talk to me, but just keep an open mind about how we do this. We actually don't sell anything here. We help clients solution to their problems, and if they choose to work with us, we help facilitate that buying process. But there's never been a time where like, what can I do to help you get in this deal today? Like, that is not who we are as an organization, and I'd really encourage you to talk to the people that participate with us to hear what theirs are, and I'd encourage you to come along with us too. We'd love to have you sit in on a call and help qualify. That's all I got. Thanks.
Okay, so how are we doing? So this is what I shared with you at the end of last year and again in April. This is our plan. 100 to 110 members of the 1904 Labs team by the end of the year. Focus on the AI-enabled customer service. I do know what those acronyms mean.
We couldn't hear you, Sean.
Focus on the AI ECS, which stands for AI-enabled customer service. I do know what the acronyms mean, but I actually don't like acronyms, as people know that, but people can't resist acronyms. And most importantly, continuing to enhance our culture, developing skills for our people, raising our profile in the market, and giving back to the community. Financially, our base plan was $15 million, which would be about 10% above what we did last year. Stretch plan was $20 million, which would be 50% above. And try to be between $1.65 million and $2 million. Jake talked about the $2 million, that's the upper limit, which would set us up for $20 million to $24 million annualized going into next year. And as a people-based business, you can't just snap your fingers and go from X to 0.5X. It's very gradual. I mean, the TA team was talking about, there's a lot to continuing to grow a people-based business. But we're going to continue to invest in our people and most importantly, be profitable so we can invest in the business. From a client standpoint, we want to retain who we have because it's easier to hold on to who you have and continue to exceed expectations with them. That's how you keep them. And then hopefully add at least 3 new clients. So that was our plan. That's what we talked about in December and again in April. So how are we doing against that plan? Okay, so there's a little bit of projection here because we're in the middle of September, but I went ahead and I kind of know where we're going to be in September. So this is through the end of this month. Our plan was 10.8 million, and we're basically on the base plan, 10.8 million. Our planned monthly run rate was 1.6 million. We're about 1.5 million, maybe 1.53 million. So we're close to the target, but we need to up our monthly run rate back to, it's hard to grow, it's hard to grow if you don't grow that monthly run rate. And we got to keep focused on our biz dev efforts and pipeline. As Jake talked about, we still have, if I think about the one thing that is an Achilles heel of this company is our ability to have steady state growth in our pipeline. So part of the reorganization, the addition of Michael coming back and helping with the delivery side of the business, Serena's new role, is so I can go over and help in the marketing and sales more than I do today. You notice I had an asterisk. I'll still have an asterisk because I still have the ultimate responsibilities. But I want to be standing in front of you in 2023 and say, from my own point of view, we have a sustained, continuous flow demand engine that will support the growth plans of 1904. Not so lumpy that it is. So when you see what we show you each Monday, you see steady growth in all those phases, outside the funnel, in the various parts of inside the funnel, the things in best view, and then the stuff we're winning month to month. That allows us to continue to grow in a sustainable way. On the new client side, our goal was 3. We have 2. I think we're in good shape to get that 3rd one. We'll see. And then we obviously lost Charter, but we've added Enterprise and Ring. So right now we're at 6. Hopefully we'll be at 7 by the end of the year. And the key is grow existing clients. I see we're doing a really good job there with Enterprise and now with MasterCard. And then add new clients and do both. And in April, I said we're fully in growth mode. It was more, first you have to think you're in growth mode, and whatever you think you will get, that's kind of neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. We are really in growth mode again, and it's really good. Not just the energy I see in this room, but what we're doing with our clients and what I see in the financials. There's a chance that we could be, well, I'll go to the next slide here. There's a chance that we could do better than base plan, certainly better than 165 in growth in terms of ending monthly run rate in December. But we still have the uncertainty. It's mostly around getting that continuous flow in our marketing and sales engine. We just need to continue to execute. Number one thing, focus on clients. All of you in this room are doing what we ask you to do with our clients. We're getting these unsolicited comments about we're being different across the board in every client. And it only happens because of what each of you do individually and as a team. We talk about making meaningful commitments to your teammates and then as a team to the client. And I see that in the comments from all of our clients. And so, first of all, thank you for that. It's not easy. COVID has taken a toll on all of us. I think we're all coming out of that experience in different ways, restoring our energy and getting back on an even keel in different ways. That's human. And to ignore that would be stupid. But we continue to do it, and we're coming out of that in really good shape as we start to look at the beginning of 2023. So I have some final thoughts. I'm going to come back to, I said I would come back to what I put up there before. You saw what John talked about. I have in the box the Run to Great Purpose. All organizations need to have a purpose. It's not just to get a paycheck. And this is kind of, if you haven't read the Serving Leader book, I would highly encourage picking it up. Obviously, we pay for that kind of stuff through the Personal Professional Development Program. It's an excellent discussion of what a serving leader is and the idea of a run to great purpose. And what's our purpose? Our great purpose are these 3 whys. First and foremost, to be a transformative stop in your career. And that's a big statement. And each of you are going to help us do that for you. First, you're going to have a plan for yourself, and then you're going to ask us to help you achieve the goals you have. I want to be a place, one of the reasons we want to grow, those of you that have read the Good to Great book, you know, one of the principles of Good to Great is right people on the bus, wrong people off the bus, right seats. I believe we have the right people. We work very hard through our talent acquisition process to make sure we get team-oriented people that are smart, know something, but are willing to learn other things. Several of you have talked about getting deployed or being deployed on things you didn't know exactly what to do, and you did it anyway, because you're a team-oriented person, you're smart, and you're willing to learn new things. So that right people on the bus, wrong people off the bus, right seats. The other key thing is the bus. The bigger the bus gets, the more seats, the more sections of the bus, the more opportunity for leadership. And not just that, the more requirement for leadership. And our goal will always be to promote from within. We're always going to look inside the labs first and take a chance on any of you when we have new leadership responsibilities. Now, sometimes we have leadership opportunities and nobody raises their hand. We had some fun with that in the data engineering role and things like that. And we are going to start looking at making sure we're bringing people in that want to lead others. You don't have to be somebody that wants to do that, because we want people that want to be experts in their craft. And if you prefer to be a domain expert and grow your career that way, we want to have tons of opportunities for that. But as a people-based business, we do need people that get a thrill or a reinforcement on mentoring and leading others. So we're going to start making sure we're populating the labs with both types of people. One's not better than the other, but you need a balance. If you're going to have a bus where you have sections, you got to have people that want to help others grow. We're serious about being a company that clients come to for these thorny problems. Some of the things we talked about as a result of the client survey and fixing it, we've really leaned into the client selection process. And as Jake talked about, we don't sell anything to anybody. We help uncover companies and people within those companies that have needs, and we see where we match, and we're a good fit. And we're not always a good fit. So one of the reasons we have to fix the volume of our pipeline is so we can choose. And that's not meant to be arrogant as a company or not ever. The best thing to do is to have a lot of opportunities so we can match clients and the executives at those clients that have problems that are a good fit for the way we know how to solve and the way we believe how to solve. Not all clients are looking for a team-based approach. Not all clients are looking for HCD Agile, and that's fine. It's their money, it's their problem, they get to choose. So we need to find enough opportunities to match what the clients are looking for and what we're good at doing, what we believe in doing, so we can grow and we can provide opportunities that each of you say, wow, this is what I signed up for 1904 Labs. This is a transformative type opportunity. I'm learning new things. I'm growing. And then finally, another reason to make the bus bigger is the bus has more resources. And I'm deadly serious about this third one. We want to make a difference in the communities that we operate. There's tons of kids in St. Louis that don't come from the suburbs. I'm not saying there aren't kids in the suburbs that need help, but there are kids in the St. Louis area, in the city, that just do not have what we all probably have. Somebody, when you think about coding, and you think about access to coding camps and, just all those kind of things, access to fast internet, access to a laptop, access to other people to hack. They don't have that. So that's what Coders is about. It's not about necessarily teaching them to code. It's first exposing them to those things so they can start to say, hey, I could be that, even though I don't have anybody in the house that does that or whatever. So that's why that's important to kids. The unhoused and or the homeless, use either terminology. Helping those organizations that are helping get those people off the streets and understand, why they're on the streets, give them comfort, but really focus on getting them off the streets and into housing so they can participate in prosperity. And then finally, the adult population that's on the wrong path. And it's one thing to say, the people that are committing crime and all those kind of things, if they choose to continue doing that, we're not involved in that. That's the criminal justice system. But if somebody literally comes out of that system and says, hey, I want to try something new, I want to be on the right path, we want to help the organizations that are worried about that. Mission St. Louis is one of them, the prison organization. I think there's just so much to do there. So we're going to, your time, your talent, and our combined treasures to help those. And so once again, the bus gets bigger, we have more resources. We were operating at a loss for some of the pandemic. And Jack and the rest of the board said, we're going to keep the company going and we're going to get ourselves back on track. And we're slowly and surely getting ourselves back on track. We're profitable. We're not super profitable, but we're getting more profitable. We're going to invest some of those profits back into helping and making a difference in the community. It's critically important to this thing we call great purpose. So we're going to do it together. We're going to help you, and we're going to want you to hold us accountable on this idea of a transformative stop in your career. We're going to together be a differentiated provider to clients. So they say these things. You saw some of those quotes. And together we're going to make a difference in our community. Right now, primarily in St. Louis, but if you're someone in this room that's from another place and you have an idea of how we could start to help you help in your community, great. We're going to be, though, following you in St. Louis and others. We're going to lead with you, and you want to do something, we'll get behind you and try to help you. Not, hey, there's a problem over there, why don't you guys go help? If you're willing to spend your time and talent, we'll try to put some treasure or time and talent behind it as well. All right, so now we're in the Ask Me Anything section. So I'll hold the mic, but if the question is better answered by somebody else in the room, I'll point to them or have them come up and grab the mic. So, question.
Can you enumerate why a PDP fund request might not be approved?
So the question is, can you elaborate why a PDP, Professional Personal Development Program fund request? Largely, the only ones that don't get approved in whole is when there's a guideline like a monitor, and we've kind of said, hey, it's reasonable, $400 is a reasonable spend for a monitor, or $400 for a chair. Somebody comes in with a Mac Daddy 72-inch double screen, $1,000 thing, we're like, yeah, one Steve, right, exactly. And I'll say, hey, we'll pay up to $400 of that. In terms of not being approved at all, the only thing we are not, the chasm we've not crossed is equipment in your home, capital items other than office equipment. You know, because if you think about what's happened, and we kind of fell into this candidly, but we've kind of found our way. Now that your home office is your office most of the time, you come into the office sometimes, it's up to us to help you have the right environment. It's good for you and it's good for us. And so then we've set those guidelines. But if you say, hey, you know, I want to, and we've, from the personal side of personal and professional, we'll do gym memberships. Those are monthly expenses and things like that. People have said, hey, I want to have a treadmill. Right now, we're not going to finance a treadmill. So those are probably the only ones that get denied because they're capital investments that we haven't crossed that chasm. Sometimes we get things that come by where really should be dealt with the HSA. They're personal, you know, they're medical things, and they're covered by HIPAA. And so you might get an answer that says, no, we're not going to do it through the personal and professional development program. You should do that through our benefits programs and the HSA program and things like that. That answers your question? Okay. Kelly?
I'm going to read the ones in the AMA channel. Is that okay?
Sure.
Can you repeat the question or say it louder?
She's gonna read AMA channel questions.
Okay, cool. Thanks. This is from Scapes. So it's a two-part question. The first part is, since we've been developing more leadership roles, should there be a plan to have a competency training designation, certificate, or learning path set up for our folks that are interested in those roles?
Why don't you go to part two, because I've actually already answered that question in the AMA channel.
Okay. And then part two is this something for the capability leads to discuss?
Yeah, so one of the things that in the announcement I made when I announced the new organizational structure might coming on, if you notice there's a role that's not been filled yet, which is a cross-practice capability lead role. It's open, and we've had several people apply for it. I didn't do anything with it because it's going to report to Mike, so he'll make that decision. We've been working on something called the Capability Framework, which in response to people's desire to have more fulfilling careers, career paths, and things like that, there's really two types of capabilities or skills. You can use those terms interchangeably. One would be domain-specific skills. So like if you're in modern software engineering, I know how to do React, or I know how to do XYZ programming. And then you'll have professional capabilities, which are cross-cutting capabilities. Things like, I know how to give a presentation. I know how to interview somebody. I've mastered the 5 habits. There's the 7 habits, or habit 5, which is the most important habit. Those are all cross-cutting, independent of whether you're a modern software engineer, or a data engineer, or a talent acquisition person. These are personal or professional skills. And that's all part of that framework. And one of the things I want to turbocharge starting in the 4th quarter under Mike's leadership and the capability leads is to get that framework finished and then figure out, based on what skills we define that drive the labs, both domain-specific skills within the various practices and the professional skills, what training do we need to do to give people those skills? And so those skills around leadership and mentoring and things like that will be in that framework, and we will need to figure out how to train against those things.
Josh Foss asked, 1904 Labs emphasizes serving the community and the less fortunate. To that end, would it be possible to offer a benefit where employees can donate from their paycheck to approved charities, and the company can match up to a certain amount, similar to a 401k match? This would be possible also, this would also possibly give us an edge at attracting talent.
Yeah, so before the pandemic hit, before we kind of hit the skids financially, we allocated a certain amount of our revenue into a fund to give back. And we suspended that as part of just pulling in our horns financially and making it through the pandemic. As part of our 2023 planning, we're going to look at that again. We can certainly set up the ability, I mean, today we do it episodically. Somebody says, like Julie talked about giving to the school program, the supplies program, things like that. If somebody wants to designate money, we can take it out of your paycheck and we can give it. We don't match it today. We'll take a look at that for the 2023 plan and see if we can't do something. You know, maybe we set up an initial fund that we can handle, and it's available until it runs out. So I can't say for sure because we haven't started the 2023 plan and we haven't figured out all the expenses and things like that. But it makes a lot of sense to me that to get back to doing that, and we'll take a hard look at it. Should have more for you in the December all hands, although we may not be done with the financial plan by then. Sometimes we don't finish it until the beginning of January. But it's a good idea, and if we can do it, you know, we'll seriously consider it. Any other questions from that channel? Okay. Eli?
Is the company going to release the survey results as we had in previous years spreadsheet?
I thought we did that already.
We did.
So if you missed it, you may not be the only one. We'll re-release in the Ask Me Anything channel. Look for a link.
Julie, the question was, will we release the survey results?
Yeah, sorry, I'll repeat the question. Did you have another question?
I do have another question. Have we looked at changing or increasing the PDP funds as expenses have changed?
We haven't, but it's a reasonable thing to think about. The question is, have we looked at, you know, we've had a 1,200 limit for the personal professional development program for a long time, but with prices rising, have we looked at raising it? The answer to date has been no, but once again, just like that question before, we'll look at it in the 2023 and whether or not we can make an adjustment or keep it the same, and we'll notify you as soon as we've made a decision. Jocelyn?
Sure. Do we have any way to track harassment that's happening between clients and internal employees? I know that we have an internal policy now for employees.
We don't have any. I'm not aware of how much of that's going on, so I guess that's the answer is we don't have a system to track it. But if anybody in the room feels like they're getting harassed by a client or by somebody else, talk to your AEL or talk to your APL, but I would talk, the AEL would be the first place to go and to see, one, context, what's going on, and then figure out how we're going to deal with it. I mean, we have a zero tolerance policy for harassment between each of you and with our clients. It's obviously a little more sensitive with clients, but we're not going to tolerate it. But you have to take a little more care in terms of what you're going to do about it or how you're going to take care of it. That answer the question? So the question was about tracking harassments that are happening between 1904 people and clients. We don't have a system, but I would just say the first thing you do is talk to your AL if you feel like that, if you feel subject to that situation. James?
So on the ABI slide, we mentioned the parental leave. Is there any idea as to what improvements we made in benefits or changes to benefits for 2023?
Okay, so the question is on the parental leave benefit, which we do have a parental leave benefit. I think you're asking, can we make it better than it is today? What's that?
Can you make it retroactive for all the kids?
No, but like every benefit has a cost. So if that's something that's interesting, I think probably what we need to do is if either feel free to put it in the benefits channel, because it is a benefits question, and we'll look at that. We've had now several questions about things that I would put in the category of benefits, and we'll put that in the hopper and figure out how do we look financially in 2023, where can we make changes in our benefits. No promises, but we'll take a look at it. Matt?
As the labs have gotten more diverse and our clients got more diverse, have you reevaluated shutting the 94 lab down between Christmas and New Year's and add those 4 days just to everyone's PTO balance? That way, people take that whenever they like.
I have looked at it, but I'm a big proponent of that once a year, everybody shut down at the same time, because there's a real value to just sharpening the saw. There's no company operations, right? We're shut down for a week. You don't have to worry about what's happening or things like that. The second thing is that that's a dead time. So it's a really good time to shut the company down for a week and let everybody refresh. So I don't expect we're going to change that. I understand the request, but there's a real value in my mind to having us at some time, having the entire company shut down for a period of time, and that's the best week to do it.
Why is that the best week?
Because it's the least trafficked week, and it's a natural week. I mean, for whatever holiday you celebrate, there's more holidays than just Christmas in that time. It's just a good time to shut down. When you look at the rest of the calendar, trying to find another week, like a natural week like that, to do that, to shut the company down for a week, there isn't one. So it's not perfect, but it gives us an opportunity. It grew out of the Monsanto shutdown, but I actually thought it was a really good policy of theirs. Because if you think about it, I mean, because now we have a lot of out-of-town people, we've moved the last all hands a couple weeks in front of that last day, because it's not reasonable to have our people from out of town fly in on December 20th or whatever it is. But it's just really nice to know, okay, I've got 2 weekends plus a week in the middle of the week, and nothing is showing up in Slack, nothing showing up in email. We tell the clients we're not working. Granted, we've had a couple situations where the client said, okay, I need you to do something. But for the most part, you do get an uninterrupted break, which I hope each of you are using to sharpen the saw in whatever way you do that. Does that at least answer your question? Maybe not the answer you're looking for, but.
Is there a reason why vacation's accrued and not fully allotted at the time of hiring?
Can you?
So a lot of companies these days will say you get 15 days vacation, here you get it all at your anniversary date, as opposed to the labs as it accrues over your time, your tenure from that.
It's just been kind of an earned event, the way we've done it from a financial standpoint. We do allow people to go negative.
Right.
And we've had people come to us and say, I need to go more negative. And like if you want to, you show up and you have something going on. And typically when we have people show up, many of you in the room know that if you said to us, hey, I have a vacation and we want you to start, but you're 6 weeks later, you're going to go on vacation and you're just starting, we've made some accommodations there as well.
In 2023, when does our vacation expire?
Okay, so we changed our end of September. So we played around with when it ends, but now it's going to end in September 30th. So we just started it. We're now on a July 1st through September 30th calendar through 23, and then next year it'll be October 1st to September 30th. So it's gotten away from summer. Christmas was definitely a bad time to have an end, and summer turned out to be a really bad time. Maybe there's no good time. But the key thing I want to say is that we want people to use their PTO on a regular basis. That sharpen the saw, that regular cadence is, you get 3 weeks of PTO, plus we have that week shutdown in December. It very nicely can allocate 1 week a quarter. Doesn't have to be that way, but we really want to emphasize how important we believe sharpening the saw is on a cadence basis, as opposed to saving up your vacation. We understand when people want to go on that special 2-week trip or whatever, great. But for the most part, get into a habit of using your vacation on a regular basis. Follow up?
No, unrelated.
Okay, well then I'll come back to you.
Mine is related.
Okay.
So I'm sure, I don't know how this, it sounds like it's troublesome for a lot of people too. The longer vacation just dies at once. Does the system we use not have any capability to do a rolling off? Like, oh, you got this many hours on this day, they expire a year from now. And then you, as long as you don't let your vacation max out, you don't lose any vacation.
Are you thinking, I'm not following the question. Can you elaborate a little bit?
Instead of once a year, all the vacation you have, whether you only take off. So like, the hours I gain every week, I keep them throughout the year, but the hours I gain in January will roll off again in January. Like I'll lose them then.
Yeah, I think ADP, I think we could do it differently. I'm not gonna hide behind the system, because I think I'm not sure exactly, because ADP has some capabilities and not others, but,
Well, we had most of our team out, around that time, just to use up all of our vacation, but if it was organically rolling out, we wouldn't.
well, we accumulated a lot. We rolled and re-rolled because of the pandemic, and June was a shit show. I mean, there's no way to say anything other than that. And I don't blame anybody for taking their time. It just, we had to burn off all that accumulated rollover that we did.
I just think using a system, the net result will be the same. You use your vacation or you lose it, but everyone wouldn't be using a vacation the same. It would just change behavior.
Yeah, and yeah.
My question is, can the system change?
Can we have a different system than a hard, the way we do vacation today, now we've chosen September 30th for the hard date. Could we have a different system that didn't, everybody had to burn their vacation on some date? Anniversary on the, right?
Not even having to burn your vacation, just you automatically, your vacation automatically.
Like reverse it through.
Once you max.
Some
Yeah.
vacations only accrue to like 80 hours or 120 hours, and once you hit that, you don't accrue.
Yeah, we've talked about a different system to incent the same behavior. So the behavior that I want, that's very important to me personally, so I'm not going to hide behind the HR team or anything like that, is regular use of your PTO in support of the Habit 7, which is...
In this case, you would lose your vacation, so as long as you, I guess.
Yeah, so let me just say, let me finish. I'm open to looking at the way we do it that is consistent with Habit 7. Because we want people to use their vacation regularly. We really want you to take time off on a regular basis. I don't care. It's up to you how you use your vacation, how you sharpen the saw. Everybody gets different ways to make that happen. But we want to put the PTO program in alignment with Habit 7. So offline, and if you want to put some ideas in the benefits channel about how we might do this, so we can do it in a more measured way, I'm open to re-looking at how we do it, as long as it's consistent with Habit 7. Is that helpful? So I'm not hung up on it. I think the system can do a lot, because a lot of different companies do a lot of different things. So the key principle is consistent use of PTO, consistent sharpening the saw. We don't want any heroes. We don't want anybody saying, I never take vacation. We want you to take PTO.
Yeah, I think the current system encourages you to use all your vacation at that date, and I think I'll mix the notes, but I think this other one also would.
Yeah, so let's take that offline so we can go on another topic, but yeah, as long as it's consistent with Habit 7 and sharpening the saw on a regular basis, I'm open-minded. Yeah, another one?
I don't want to beat this to death, but what is the difference between spending $500 on a gym membership versus $500 on a treadmill? If I'm going to spend the money either way.
It just crosses a line where we start to, what don't we buy? Right. And so we draw a line and said, okay, we're going to buy office equipment because we're basically asking you to use part of your house for your office, and we're going to help you fund that. But anything else, I mean, it's just a slippery slope to go, what would be the justification not to buy anything?
That's a good question.
Exactly. So rather than do that, we're not going to buy any. But we will buy a service. And, and like everything, we can think about it, but it's just I don't want to go into it in detail here. We can go offline, but I've been asked to buy all kinds of stuff. Back to the saying no, and I'm like, no, we're not buying that.
Go to a rent-a-center and get a treadmill on a monthly basis then.
Yeah, exactly. Well, within guidelines. So,
that was a joke. Sorry.
Okay.
Just
Well, I'm glad you're not beating us to death. I don't know what that would look like. James? I'm sorry.
So we talked about a survey today that was from January, and obviously we've had a lot of people leave since then, and a lot of people start. Has there been thought to doing more regular, like in line with more and more sentiment type surveys, not even surveys, but just like getting a feel of how people feel about the class, so that people who have been here back in months and haven't had a chance to feedback have more of a chance?
So the question is, hey, we've had a lot of people join since we last did the survey in January. Shouldn't we figure out other ways to do surveys more regularly so we can make sure the people that are joining? We can do that. I think the annual survey gives us a chance to ask the same questions every year and kind of take sentiment of how we're doing in these very key areas. I would encourage you, though, we have the Ask Me Anything channel, we have the benefits channel. If you have, if you're new and you either don't understand why we're doing something the way we do it, or you think we're doing it the wrong way and you think you have other suggestions, we do practice radical candor. You know, care deeply but challenge directly. If you have, you know, if you're a new person, it's okay to raise your hand and say, hey, in fact, I would appreciate you doing that, and saying, I don't understand why we do this. We don't have to wait till the January survey to get that answer from you. But we're going to do it every year so that we get asked the same questions and we can see how we're doing on key things that make a difference to people. So a lot of people get surveyed out. You know, we constantly ask questions like, hey man, there's too many surveys. I don't want any more surveys. So we're going to do an annual survey. Sometimes we do polys, or you'll see, you know, Julie will do very specific questions about things. Like she asked a question, we'll do it again at the all hands to ask about this format and this meeting and things like that. But between the annual survey, if you're new, or even if you've been here a long time, if you don't understand why we're doing something, you don't like we're doing something, you'd like to see us do something different, hit the Ask Me Anything channel and ask about it. Okay.
Can we make the survey questions public? I would hate to forget something just because I couldn't remember what was supposed to be on the survey or anything. Like, are those published anywhere?
The responses are public. Okay, so the question is, are the annual survey questions published? I don't think we have, but we've published the answers to them. By extension, we've published the questions. But we can certainly put those somewhere, Julie, on the portal, because we have them. They're in electronic form. There'd be no reason we couldn't put them somewhere. You could do a link and you could see what we're asking. And then if you don't think we're asking the right questions, you know, we'll crowdsource new questions. The key thing is we want to ask a core set of questions every year so you can kind of see how we're doing against those questions, whether we're getting better or getting worse, hopefully better. But we did just revamp the survey for the January survey. And so we want to make sure we have comparative, because it's important to see, are we taking these actions, are we having any impact? Coach?
Can we look at employee retention statistics at all? I get a sense that things have shifted and maybe improved, but I don't actually know. And we talk a lot about employee numbers and talent acquisition, but I never really see anything about employee retention. I'm just curious if we ever look at that or if we have comparisons.
We do. We don't put it up here, but we do. My sense is we're doing better, but it's been a tumultuous employee market. A lot of options, a lot of, you know, you read all these notes about the Great Resignation. Now you have the notes about the Great Regret. You know, some percentage of people that left are sorry they did so. Our goal is just to make this place back to that. What's that? Our goal is to focus on that first of the 3 Ys, is be a transformative place so you're getting what you need, not you personally, but everybody, as long as we can. I mean, I hope you get more, but I wasn't singling you out on that, so that you'll stay as long as it makes sense, because that's the way we look at it. Which, actually, I don't know. I shared an article with Carmen earlier this week about career ladders and portfolios. You know, a lot of companies, and this is consistent with what John showed on the top-down leadership versus servant leadership. A lot of companies say, hey, we need to provide career ladders and all this stuff. Really what we need to do is provide opportunities for everybody to navigate their career inside our framework, where we get a good intersection. and then people will stay around for a long time. You know, the balance of paying you well, treating you well, putting you with good teammates, good opportunities to grow your skills, those kind of things. But we can, you know, we track it, we just don't publicize it. It is down, but I look at it as it's a lot of factors, you know, reflect into why people leave or why they stay. And I really want to focus on all the factors that would make you want to stay. But I really don't want you to stay when it's no longer in your best interest to stay. I mean, people, when I say those things, we're like, oh my God, I can't believe you're saying that. But that's the truth is, we want to be a different kind of place. We want to be a place that we get it. It's your career. It's not our career or your career, it's your career. And that's why we want the bus to be bigger. We want to have tons of opportunities so you can grow your career and you can get what you need without having to leave. Is that helpful?
It is. I have a quick follow-up.
Okay.
So we don't publicize that, and you said it could be due to a lot of factors, and I also believe that's true, especially over the past 2 or 3 years. Is there any more reason why we don't publish that, or even at least mention it here? Is it just because we don't think it would be helpful?
No, we could. I'm not. We can certainly think about putting it up there. I mean, it feels a little negative, but you know, we certainly do track it. We just don't publicize.
Because I could certainly go in Slack and probably figure it out myself.
Yeah, I mean, because we're. What's that?
I was gonna say, so you could also look like on the employee directory, like how long people have been here. Is that what you're like trying to figure out, or like how people that are leaving?
No, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think retention and tenure and all those kind of things, we can show it. I'm just trying to think how the best way to show it, but I'll get with Carmen. It's clearly, or Julie, it's clearly you can certainly see it, right? Because we're very open about org updates. Hey, so-and-so's leaving or so-and-so's coming back. I want to make a point about, somebody used the term retreads. I don't think of it that way. I think about it as boomerangs. It's a good thing that people come back. But it's an okay thing when people leave too. If, you know, as long as they're leaving for the right reasons, which means they can't get what they need from us.
So as we talked in our last one-on-one, I had the rare opportunity to participate in the leadership team meetings, and I thought that was very beneficial to me to see how we eat our own dog food. And I wanted to know, when we talked about this, I wanted to know what your thoughts are now about maybe allowing more people that are interested in that to kind of transition into the leadership team for maybe a couple weeks or a couple months, and then transition out to kind of, you know, see how the sausage is really being made behind the scenes.
So Steve's question, because he was obviously the interim data engineering practice lead before Fish took over, and he had a chance to sit in on the leadership meetings. And sometimes we know you know of a meeting and you don't know what's going on in that meeting, and you can like, oh, what do they do in that meeting? And then he said to me in our last one-on-one, when he stepped out of the acting role, he had really appreciated that because he saw that there's no mystery or magic. We're using the same principles we talk about to figure out what to do next for the company, really a serving leader kind of model. And he said, hey, is there a way to get more people to have access to that? Because he said it would be valuable for people to see how the sausage is made, to use your terminology, but how the company's led. And conceptually, no, I don't have any problem with that. I've been thinking about it since you and I talked. It's only been a couple weeks. But I think it's a reasonable idea if people are interested. So maybe we could do a poll. We could formulate a question, Julie, and see how many people would want to have kind of a internship into the leadership team. And then we can figure out how much demand or interest there is in that idea, and then we can figure out how to operationalize it. Because I think it's healthy. We don't do anything in a leadership meeting that I'm ashamed of or whatever. It's straight up. And if we can give people more access to that, and it's something people want, I'm open to that. I don't know how exactly we do it if everybody in the company wants to be on the leadership team, but that's a different problem. There is. There actually is a leadership board. Yeah, I mean, I think that Julie said, hey, in prior companies, there's been like a blog or some kind of place where you can kind of see what the company's working on. We do have a leadership, I mean, we follow our own dog food. We have a backlog. We have things that we're currently actively working on, things we've closed out, things that are in the backlog but not been activated. The thing that I'm thinking about is some of them need context because they're not super articulated and they're not decided, right? So they're things that we're thinking about, but we don't know what to do, or we just haven't figured out what to do. Right. Yeah, I know. So I'm leaning into that. There is a way to do it that way too, without having to come to the meeting. But the action I'll take is, and I'll give this to Julie since she's our director of employee experience. We'll kind of describe what some ideas are. Steve's idea, your idea, Julie's, and what people think of those ideas to get better visibility to the way we're running the company. And then depending on who's interested in those ideas, then we'll figure out, okay, how could we operationalize those? Because, there's no secret. I mean, there's no secret things we're doing that we wouldn't share with you. Might be some intermediate activities that aren't really ready for full, because we may kill them before we get anywhere with them. But things that we're working on, there's nothing we're working on that's in some form couldn't be shared and help people understand how the company's being run. Kanika? Yeah, so Kanika said, because she's created the shadow program, you could have a shadow program that your assignment was to shadow the leadership team. And conceptually I like the idea. Let's find out how many people are interested in it, and then we'll figure out how we might accommodate it. Thanks, Steve.
Along the same lines, just maybe you could record the meetings and publish them.
So Nick said along those same lines we could record the meetings and publish them. I'm not sure about that because, sometimes you go in a direction, you talk about things. I don't know. I don't know if you want to record the whole thing. You have a notion in public companies where you have public session and private session. I don't know if that would crimp people's willingness to be radically candid because it could be taken out of context. You're not there. But everything can be on the table. So let's see how many people are interested, and then we'll figure out. It may take us a while. There's some complexity I can imagine to this idea, but I'm open to it. And Steve said it was really valuable because now you can kind of see how the sausage is made, to use his terminology, and it's not super sexy, but we are very deliberative, and we try not to. Remember, we do with, not to. We really try not to do things to the company, but with the company. Jim?
Yeah. Who is the leadership team?
So if you looked at that most recent serving leader chart that Carmen's put out there, and I don't think we've decided on a format. Everybody that has a direct line to me, and then a direct line to Serena and Mike, is on that leadership team. It's the senior serving leaders that are at the bottom or at the side of the chart. Okay. Eli?
With the new org chart, we added a lot of positions, hours and billable. How do we balance? How is the company balancing positions that aren't technically client billable because they're doing internal work, which we know is all valuable, as well as positions that are billable? Because obviously the billable position doesn't get money in.
Yeah, so Eli's question is, in the recent org chart announcement, we've added some, for lack of a better word, non-billable or overhead positions, and how do we balance non-billable and billable roles? We do that through our financial modeling in terms of making sure we have enough billable revenue and billable activity to fund the company. And I think I've said this before, we operate the company under a just enough principle, where just enough process, just enough structure, just enough rules, and by my own desire, have less than really we need sometimes. So you operate kind of on that edge of organization and chaos. I think it's better than over-engineering. So we try not to add too many non-billable roles until they're absolutely needed.
I know at time can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
So our headcount's smaller than it was before pandemic. So I think we're about almost same.
Well, we're at 80 and we were at 96. Just as the pandemic started, we peaked at 96.
So we have a lot more structure than we did then. What changed between then and now that we feel that we need this extra structure?
Actually, if I were to take you through all the roles, we don't really have as much structure. There's a couple of people disappeared that were in senior non-billable roles, and we haven't replaced those people. What we've done, which those that are on the leadership team know me, I really have resisted putting an org chart out. Because as soon as you do that, we're getting exactly what I thought we would get, which makes sense. Hey, who does what? Why do we have these people? How does all this work? Is this a top-down organization? Is it really not a serving leadership? So, but it was time to document the organization and let everybody see it. But I would say we have fewer senior leadership roles now, even with Mike coming on Monday, than we did when we entered the pandemic. And the goal would be to not have, I've told all the senior leaders, I want everybody to be willing to do billable work. Maybe the senior leaders wouldn't be doing story-based work where they're taking stories and saying, I'm going to go off and do X, Y, Z. But I really want our senior leaders to still want to do billable work, because back to doing interesting work, being somebody the clients look to solve their crunchy problems, having a senior leader who's been through the ringer many times on that project as an advisor is very useful, because most people that are senior have made more mistakes than people that haven't. And so when you've seen that mistake being made a couple times, you can kind of keep the team from necessarily making that again. So I really want all of us, myself included, if there's an opportunity to be billable, I want to be billable. Is that helpful? Yeah, so I can maybe take one more question, then Julie's going to kick us off. Anybody? Going once?
I was just going to add comments to what Eli said. When I started, we had about the same number of employees, and I had 2 managers, and now I have 4 managers above me, which is quite a marked difference.
Oh, you're talking about the layers of the company?
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be true, but I think, once again, I'll come back to what I said before. We've articulated what the structure is before, and with a serving leader model, I'd say you have more people there to help, because the individual contributors are at the top. I tried to get the bottom up one. Nobody seemed to like that one, but the people, the individual contributors or team members are at the top. So there might be more people supporting you, but it's not more people on top of you. And it is hard to get that concept down that says if you step into leadership, you're taking on responsibility to help others be productive, not tell them what to do. And hopefully, and once again, I want all of you to hold me to that and hold the leaders, anybody in a serving leader, are they helping you get done whatever you need to get done? If you read the serving leader book, it is not a servant leader, it's a serving leader. So one of the things the serving leader is responsible for is holding you accountable, raising the bar, making sure you're, not you personally, but everybody, reaching your potential. And sometimes those are tough conversations, if you're kind of mailing it in or you're just kind of coasting. But they're also there to show you how to do it, blaze that trail, and give you the resources you need to do what you're being asked to do. And so part of it is to get the organization more supportive, because we're evolving. And we've gotten a little bit, in the pandemic, exposed some of our vulnerabilities in terms of we were growing very fast and we hadn't laid in enough of the structure. So we've been taking some of those actions as well as we were in the pandemic and coming out of the pandemic. But back to Eli's core question, you can't have more non-billable structure than you can afford. And then you need to make sure the non-billable structure you have is helping those people doing billable work, either directly or indirectly. All right, so any other questions? The AMA channel is always open. Ask whatever you want to ask. Some housekeeping here. Our next meeting, all hands meeting, is on the 8th as I said, in response to the question about the shutdown, we used to do our all hands in December was always the last business day of the year. It's not that anymore. It's 2 weeks before that. And then we'll still be operating for a couple weeks or a week and a half before we do the all company shutdown at the end of the year.
Okay, now it's time to get up and get some energy back. We have a little thing for Carol. Do you want to come up here? Carol, where'd she go? Come on up. You see, people don't stay gone forever. We lure them back in. We've lured her back in for an hour or so this afternoon. She was at our event on Monday. Just wanted to present you with something.
Yeah, so okay, so like I said, we want people to stay as long as possible, but we understand when they want to go somewhere else, when they've reached the end of what 1904 can do for them. And in the case of Carol, that discussion happened, 2-3 months ago, something like that. Candidly, I wasn't expecting it, but when she explained why, I understood. And, she'd been here 6 years and a key member of the team. But it was time for her to go. It was her time to go. No, I don't know how else to say it, because this gets to the core of our philosophy. Everybody gets to decide when their time has come, and she had decided. I didn't want her to decide that, but she decided it anyway. So it's been a while since we gave this out. It's the Bader Award, named after Jack Bader, our founder and majority owner, and it's for exceptional contribution. And it's given to people that have made a meaningful and material difference at 1904. And Carol definitely falls in that category, so I'm gladly, even though I'm sad she's gone, I'm gladly giving her this award. The Bader Award for Exceptional Contribution. Thank you, Carol. And I think I'll just add, the last person we gave this award to was that guy over there. No, but you don't get it twice. So I don't know. Maybe Carol will come back at some point, kind of like Mike. But anyway, Carol, thank you for everything.
Yes, and once an alumni, once part of 1904, always part of 1904. Alumni are always welcome. So, like I had said earlier, we've got some games. We've got Jenga. Last time, Giant Jenga got a little competitive at our outdoor happy hour a little bit ago. So I know some other people brought some games. So we're just gonna set up. We've got games we can go in here. We've got the other 2 rooms that we use for the breakfast meetings, and then we've got drinks that are going to be out at the bar area, and pizzas here because we haven't eaten enough yet today. So just mingle and enjoy, and thank you all for a great day. Thank you for the remote folks that traveled here this week. It's great to have everyone together.